Rimuru tried to negotiate, asking what he would gain in return. Guy, however, pointed out that Rimuru had already disrupted the world balance by siding with powerful entities like the demonesses. This disruption was Guy's leverage, implying that refusing his request could make Rimuru a potential enemy. Realizing that he had little choice and that refusing might lead to dire consequences, Rimuru accepted Guy's request. This acceptance was more about ensuring his survival and maintaining a strategic position rather than a genuine willingness to comply. Just as Guy returned to his seat, Shuna entered with the soothing aroma of tea and slices of cake, dispelling some of the tension in the room. Rimuru decided to take a break, using this moment to gather his thoughts. Shuna served tea and cake in the next room for the secretaries and maids, who surprisingly complied without complaint. Rimuru sipped the tea, appreciating its soft, gentle flavor. Even Guy and Velgrynd enjoyed it, praising its taste and the room's decoration. This unexpected appreciation from Guy made Rimuru realize he shouldn't judge people based on preconceived notions. Feeling slightly more at ease, Rimuru engaged in some light conversation, revealing that this was the first time he entertained guests in the most extravagant reception room. Guy's laughter at Rimuru's attempts to feel him out confirmed that Rimuru was still under Guy's influence. Guy then made his request clear. He wanted Rimuru to keep the war going and destroy the Empire's forces, reducing Emperor Ludora's pawns to 0 without killing him. Guy then explained that the only rule in his game with Emperor Ludora was that they couldn't meddle with each other directly. Victory could be claimed if the opponent admitted defeat, died, or if the game itself became impossible to continue. Guy and Ludora had been playing this game for over 2,000 years, exercising restraint after Milim's birth and Veldanava's death to avoid catastrophic battles. The game involved building up their forces over time, with Guy patiently waiting for his monsters to evolve. None of the other Octagram members, including Milim, knew about this game. Guy revealed this to Rimuru because Rimuru was the first to challenge Ludora significantly. Guy knew about Ludora's strategy of using war to evolve his elite soldiers, much like how he had allowed conflicts between demon lords to awaken more true demon lords. This approach ensured that the more awakened beings they had, the stronger their position in the game. The ultimate goal was for Guy to achieve an undeniable upper hand before making a decisive move. This strategic patience had kept the game ongoing, with no winner yet determined. Rimuru's actions had disrupted Ludora's plans, preventing him from gaining more powerful pieces, much to Guy's satisfaction. For both Guy and Ludora, their grandiose operation was more than a mere distraction. It was a long-term game spanning countless generations. For most, it was an annoyance, but for them, it was a means to fill their seemingly endless time. Ludora assumed that survivors of encounters with Veldora would awaken, highlighting the depth of his strategy. Realizing he was just a significant game piece for Guy was frustrating for Rimuru, but it was the reality. Guy encouraged Rimuru to attack the Empire, emphasizing that merely posing as a superpower would be pointless. Instead, strategic actions were needed to avoid unnecessary casualties. When Rimuru inquired about potential threats within Ludora's forces, Guy's response, rooted in his arrogance, was that as long as he was the strongest, the opponent's strength didn't matter. This attitude reflected a tyrant's mindset, always confident in his superiority. Rimuru understood the urgency of clarifying their stance with the Empire. Despite Benimaru's concerns about the danger, Rimuru insisted on joining forces with Yuuki to work towards peace on their terms. Delegating such a critical task to someone else was not an option, as it would likely lead to conspiracies and potential threats to Rimuru's safety. Acknowledging the dangers ahead, Rimuru knew that taking a proactive stance was necessary to secure a stable future and maintain the peace he sought to build. After settling down with tea and cake, Rimuru and Guy continued their conversation. Rimuru confirmed with Guy that Emperor Ludora could confer ultimate skills on others, albeit for a limited time and in degraded forms. Guy's straightforward answers provided crucial insights, easing some of Rimuru's concerns. The casual demeanor with which Guy discussed world-altering battles while enjoying a slice of cake irked Rimuru. He was also annoyed by how Guy treated him dismissively after getting his agreement. Despite this, Rimuru knew he had to focus on gathering and processing the information without letting his frustrations get the better of him. Realizing the private chat was wrapping up, Rimuru took a moment to reflect on everything he had learned. The air was calm and peaceful, yet despite finishing their business, Guy showed no signs of leaving. Shuna, demonstrating her hospitality skills, skillfully poured a refill into Guy's teacup from a separate pot to ensure the tea leaves wouldn't get used up too quickly. Her professionalism left a positive impression on Guy, who praised her abilities compared to his own staff. Benimaru looked concerned, but Shuna remained composed, handling Guy's presence with grace. Guy then made an unexpected request. He wanted Miseri and Rain to train under Shuna to learn how to bake cakes like hers. Despite having experienced a nice spread at the Walpurgis Council, Guy recognized Shuna's superior dessert skills. Rimuru reflected on the luxury of recreating his favorite foods in this world, a privilege highlighted by Guy's reaction. He realized the importance of gratitude for the high-quality ingredients produced in Tempest, essential for their culinary creations. Deciding to be generous, Rimuru asked Shuna to teach the recipe to Miseri and Rain, but emphasized the need for Tempest's quality ingredients. They agreed to potentially cut a deal on supplying these ingredients later. With Kaijin and his team's technical skills, Rimuru's sweet tooth had led to the creation of high-quality sugar, enabling them to indulge in these treats. They didn't produce enough to market widely, but it allowed them to enjoy and share with select allies like Guy. Rimuru agreed to share their product, but kept their technology a secret. He considered the potential challenges of having Guy regularly invite himself into their nation, but trusted that Miseri and her team could manage transport gates for smooth transactions. Rimuru realized that forming deeper ties with powerful entities like Guy could enhance Tempest's security. Mutual dependencies between nations often acted as deterrents against conflicts. Recognizing the importance of maintaining a strategic alliance, Rimuru decided to comply with Guy's requests to avoid unnecessary trouble. Despite his growing respect for Guy's rationality and understanding, Rimuru couldn't ignore the fact that Guy could be demanding and manipulative. Just as Rimuru hoped Guy would leave, Guy asked a critical question about Diablo's evolution. Caught off guard by Guy's perceptiveness, Rimuru scrambled for an acceptable response. Guy noticed Diablo's evolution and inquired about the true Demon Lord's strength in Rimuru's labyrinth. Guy's smiling lips contrasted with his intense eyes, signaling that he expected a truthful answer. Raphael, Rimuru's dependable ally, suggested framing the evolutions as part of experimentation with the Belzebuth skill. Grateful for the timely advice, Rimuru prepared to present this explanation, knowing it was crucial to satisfy Guy's curiosity. Guy seemed intrigued by Rimuru's explanation of the evolution ritual using the Belzebuth skill. By converting souls into energy and granting it to those capable of awakening, Rimuru could enhance individual strength within his team. Guy, sensing the truth in Rimuru's words, appeared convinced. The conversation shifted to Rimuru's origins. Guy expressed surprise at Rimuru's abilities and achievements, asking if he was a reincarnate. Rimuru confirmed that he had died in another world and was reborn as a slime with his memories intact. This revelation, although known to many in the Western nations, seemed to catch Guy off guard. Guy's amusement at Rimuru's story highlighted the rarity and uniqueness of his reincarnation. Despite the odd circumstances, Rimuru's journey from a mere slime to a powerful leader had been anything but ordinary. Guy's laughter didn't amuse Rimuru, but Guy's explanation made sense. Rimuru's resilience and rapid evolution were due to his reincarnation and retention of his mind. Despite the rude remarks, Rimuru couldn't afford to antagonize Guy. Just as Rimuru was about to push Guy to leave, he asked for more cake and circled back to the topic of awakening team members. Guy was interested in whether Rimuru could share his power with Guy's servants. Rimuru, Realizing Guy's shrewdness, knew he needed to provide a satisfactory answer. Raphael confirmed that it was possible to share power through a soul corridor, even without a common soul lineage. As long as the target didn't resist and was qualified to awaken, an infusion of energy could induce evolution. The conversation with Guy became increasingly complex as they delved into the mechanics of awakening and soul energy. Rimuru, aware of the finite number of souls he had, tried to tactfully turn down Guy's request without causing offense. However, Guy's persistence revealed his deep interest in the process. Raphael, ever the reliable ally, explained that simply transferring souls wouldn't trigger an awakening. The souls needed to be converted into a specific form compatible with the target. Moreover, the naming of a monster by a higher level being altered its nature, making it difficult to awaken through acquired souls alone. Understanding this, Rimuru realized that naming was a more efficient method of powering up monsters. Despite the challenges, Raphael's insights highlighted the intricate balance of power and evolution within the realm. Guy, seemingly unaware of these nuances, was intrigued by the explanation. Realizing the complexities and risks involved, Rimuru understood that awakening Miseri and Raine required a substantial amount of soul energy. Raphael confirmed that it would take 500,000 souls to awaken both maids, a daunting figure but necessary for the task. Guy, surprisingly, had the required souls, alleviating some of Rimuru's concerns. This conversation highlighted the stark differences in how souls and power were valued by different beings. While Rimuru felt uneasy about the implications and potential conflicts, he knew that fulfilling Guy's request was essential for maintaining their alliance and ensuring Tempest's security. As the tension eased with tea and cake, Benimaru and Shuna observed the interactions with a mix of curiosity and concern. Summoning Shion and Diablo, Rimuru prepared for the next steps. Guy, now on his third slice of cake, was in a jovial mood, having handed over the 500,000 souls needed for the evolution ritual. Shuna brought Miseri and Raine back into the room, and they expressed their gratitude for the cake and the recipe. Rimuru reflected on the absurdity of their world, filled with war and power struggles, but also moments of simple joy like enjoying a well-made cake. Rimuru explained the evolution process to Miseri and Raine, cautioning them about the potential side effects, such as extreme sleepiness, known as the Harvest Festival. He suggested they stay in Tempest to recover, anticipating that Guy wouldn't be considerate enough to ensure their well-being post-evolution. However, Guy unexpectedly agreed to take them back, surprising everyone with his uncharacteristic show of responsibility. Rimuru realized that Guy had an ulterior motive, likely wanting to observe and possibly replicate or counteract Rimuru's powers. This motivated Rimuru to keep his abilities hidden, only revealing the necessary aspects. Raphael assured him that only the Belzebuth skill would be brought to the forefront, keeping the rest concealed. Attempting to get Guy to leave, Rimuru suggested they had plenty of rooms available, hoping to avoid demonstrating his powers. Just as the psychological chess match intensified, Veldora and Ramirez burst in, interrupting the moment with their playful demands regarding the surveillance feed. Despite the interruption, Rimuru couldn't help but reflect on how his promise of post-war fun had sparked their interest in exploring the world. Using the Eye of God, they enjoyed viewing different spots, though the surveillance magic required careful management to avoid wearing off. Rimuru tried to manage the situation as Veldora and Ramirez burst into the room, interrupting the conversation with Guy. Velzard's unexpected arrival put Veldora on edge, highlighting a tense sibling dynamic. Despite her kind demeanor, Veldora was clearly uneasy, leading to an amusing display as he sought assistance from Rimuru. This interaction between the true dragons reflected the complexities of their relationships, even among such powerful beings. Rimuru, recalling past arguments about travel destinations, realized that Veldora's reluctance to go north might have been due to Velzard's presence. As Rimuru watched Veldora, feeling sorry for him as he held the door in a death grip, clearly terrified of his sister Velzard. Deciding to lend a hand, Rimuru engaged in conversation with Guy and Velzard, confirming the cold, desolate nature of the tundral waste where Guy lived. Velzard revealed that she did not suppress her magical force in that region, making it uninhabitable to keep the weak away from Guy. Rimuru cleverly deduced that Velzard's power involved cold and ice, despite her not explicitly confirming it. This realization highlighted Veldora's weakness and discomfort around his sister, despite his tough facade. Velzard, oblivious to her brother's fear, recounted her past efforts to control and rehabilitate him as acts of sisterly kindness. Veldora, in his tough guy act, could not openly defy her. Rimuru, empathizing with Veldora's plight, suggested that he might have some hang-ups about Velzard. Velzard, curious and concerned, asked why. This opened the door for Rimuru to gently address the misunderstanding, hoping to ease the tension between the siblings and help Veldora overcome his fear of Velzard. Watching Veldora in his moment of desperation, Rimuru couldn't help but feel a twinge of sympathy for him. Deciding to intervene, Rimuru suggested to Velzard that rather than lecturing Veldora, she should try guiding him with more understanding. Velzard, after some thought, agreed to give this approach a try. With Veldora reluctantly agreeing to the talk, he and Velzard exited the room, though Veldora clung to Ramirez, who protested her involvement. Rimuru, feeling a bit relieved that the situation was somewhat diffused, turned his attention back to the matter at hand, dealing with Guy. Veldora's exit left the room in a sudden, tense silence. Guy, sensing the opportunity, decided to stay overnight, much to Rimuru's dismay. Despite Rimuru's attempts to dissuade him, Guy insisted on staying and trying the tempura Rimuru had mentioned earlier. Reluctantly, Rimuru agreed, arranging for the best available room and a tempura dinner. Shuna, ever the professional, began preparations with a sweet smile. Haruna took her place, impressing Mizeri and Rain with her unobtrusive skill. Just as Rimuru resigned himself to defeat, Diablo seized the moment. He suggested that Guy and he continue their earlier conversation about ultimate abilities, effectively turning the tables. Rimuru, seeing the opportunity, encouraged Diablo to take Guy to the inner chamber for their discussion. Diablo, with a mischievous grin, led a reluctant Guy away, giving Rimuru a much-needed reprieve. Guy was like a house of cards, easily swayed when approached correctly. Diablo's persistence successfully removed him from the room, allowing Rimuru to perform the evolution ritual without interruption. Pouring the souls into Mizeri and Rain, Rimuru triggered their evolution, only to realize he had used far fewer souls than expected. Raphael explained that it had optimized the process, requiring only 200,000 souls instead of the 500,000 Guy provided. Raphael also admitted that it had used the remaining souls to evolve Testarossa, Ultima, and Carrera. This unexpected efficiency left Rimuru worried about potential repercussions from Guy if he discovered the truth. Despite Raphael's assurances, Rimuru couldn't shake his apprehension. The night turned out to be quite eventful. Despite the initial tensions, the evening ended on a surprisingly positive note. Guy, though a bit miffed, eventually thanked Rimuru for successfully conducting the evolution ritual. He looked exhausted, likely from his interactions with Diablo, who appeared unusually energetic. The dinner, featuring tempura and a hot spring bath, seemed to please both Guy and Velzard. Velzard in particular was in a good mood after her chat with Veldora. However, Veldora was not present at the farewell since he was thoroughly battered from his encounter with Velzard and was recuperating in his bed. Velzard's playful, yet intimidating promise to show no mercy on her next visit highlighted the formidable nature of true dragons. Rimuru, choosing to be diplomatic, assured Velzard that they would look forward to hosting her and Guy again. Reflecting on the day's events, Rimuru realized the need to understand more about true dragons, particularly with Velzard's presence and the potential threat of her sister in the Empire. He decided to consult Raphael for insights on how true dragons fight each other. After Guy and his crew finally departed, Rimuru found himself pondering the valuable information they had shared. Just as he began to contemplate the next steps in their ongoing war, Mjolnir approached, clearly flustered. "Ah, Sir Rimuru, I was wondering where you were. I've been looking all over," Mjolnir exclaimed. "Why the urgency?" Rimuru asked, sensing that something significant was amiss. "You'll know when you hear this. Big Mama's here, and she wants to see you," Mjolnir explained. "Big Mama?" Rimuru echoed, immediately recognizing the nickname for Elmesia Elru Thalion, the heavenly emperor of the sorceress dynasty of Thalion. Without hesitation, Rimuru rushed over to the inn where Elmesia always stayed during her visits. Elmesia's sudden arrival indicated something urgent. Known among the three pranksters as El, she was a key ally and an influential figure in both official diplomatic circles and their private escapades. Rimuru, Mjolnir and Elmesia shared a unique bond, blending official duties with their own brand of mischief. Upon arriving at the inn, Rimuru was greeted by Elmesia, who was as enigmatic as ever. The fact that she had come despite the ongoing war suggested that her visit was of utmost importance. "We told El that we're at war, didn't we?" Rimuru asked Mjolnir as they hurried to meet her. "Oh, of course. In fact, she told me herself that she'd save her next visit for when things settled down," Mjolnir replied, underscoring the unusual nature of her arrival. Elmesia, or El, was not just a powerful ruler but also a friend and co-conspirator in various side ventures aimed at establishing control over their vast economic trade zone. At first, the trio of Rimuru, Mjolnir and Elmesia were simply drinking buddies. However, their casual conversations at the bar soon evolved into discussions about sensitive matters concerning the management of their nations. Rimuru blamed his big mouth, while Mjolnir was equally guilty for not stopping him. Elmesia also shared many secrets, leading to a mutual relaxation of their guards. They all blamed it on the alcohol, acknowledging that benders could be quite revealing. This relationship was confidential, a secret kept strictly between them. If word got out, it would bring a lot of vitriol. Rimuru's staff would likely pressure him to stop. Mjolnir would face intense criticism, and even Elmesia could be subject to sarcastic remarks from Errol. Thus, they formed a tight-knit secret society called the Three Pranksters. By this point, their friendship had transcended their societal positions. Rimuru reflected on how his arrangement with Mjolnir and Elmesia began in earnest around the time they won the battle against the Rossos. The decline of the Rosso clan led to the decimation of the Western nation's criminal underground, resulting in factional warfare. To maintain order, Rimuru enlisted Testarosa's help to keep the peace. However, they couldn't sustain this indefinitely. The issue of handling criminals arose when local police or military forces were unable to act due to the risk of reprisals. In some cases, local or regional government leaders were involved in the crimes, leaving authorities hesitant to intervene. This left Rimuru troubled, prompting him to confide in Elmesia during one of her visits. Initially reluctant, Elmesia eventually leaned in. Intrigued by Rimuru's depiction of the situation and its potential benefits for both of them. Rimuru explained how crime and the economy were linked, with organized crime growing as a receptacle for the poor, potentially destabilizing national order. Mjolnir, familiar with the underworld, quickly grasped the point. Rimuru emphasized the need to provide jobs to prevent people from turning to crime, highlighting the military's role in filling positions. However, in impoverished countries, even this might not suffice, necessitating some discreet assistance. This led to the idea of creating their own crime outfit, building on the groups they had already absorbed, and considering eliminating those they had let survive. Elmesia hadn't been too enthusiastic so far, but the deciding factor came when Rimuru mentioned the project he had been working on with Mjolnir. The idea was to turn Bloomund into a concentrated industrial hub, combining the strengths of the Dwarven Kingdom's industry, Farminus's agricultural output, and Thalion's industry. By fine-tuning their efforts to avoid competition, they could make Bloomund a central gateway to the Western nation's territory. Intrigued, Elmesia wanted to know how Rimuru would profit from this endeavor. Rimuru explained that the real profit lay in controlling core technology and releasing it to the world. They plan to build a large educational institution to attract talented students globally and establish Bloomend as a major tourist destination, skimming profits behind the scenes. Elmesia quickly grasped the concept and, instead of copying it, offered to be part of the action. Their late-night discussions, filled with laughter and camaraderie, solidified their secret alliance. The next day, despite their hangovers, they reaffirmed their commitment, understanding the need to keep their plans confidential to avoid backlash. Through this drunken yet productive fraternization, their partnership was sealed. With Rimuru and Elmesia aligned, their plans progressed swiftly. They unified the Western nations' criminal groups, creating a secret society named REG, the Three Wise Drunks. This group, under the leadership of Glenda Attlee, with support from Gerard and Ayn, efficiently managed the underworld operations. At the same time, they formed two public organizations to prevent corruption. The first, the Four Nations Trade Alliance, was founded by Mjolnir and staffed with educated personnel from Bloomend. It engaged in commercial activities and was chaired by a Tempest representative with executives from Bloomend, Farminus, and Dwagen. Mjolnir, as CEO, ensured Rimuru's influence over its affairs. The second organization was a coalition of Western nations trade groups, formed by Elmesia. It was led by Doran, who was funded to establish the firm and absorb the remnants of the Rosso family. This dual approach allowed Rimuru and his allies to control both the criminal underground and legitimate trade. By leveraging their strategic insights and alliances, they maintained control and fostered prosperity, skillfully balancing secrecy and public action to navigate their world's complexities with cunning and foresight. The Western General Trade Company was established with Prince Figaro Ros Doran, a descendant of the Rossos, serving as president. Figaro and his father were the only ones aware of Elmesia's involvement, agreeing to cooperate in exchange for her protection. Doran acknowledged the necessity of aligning with such powerful figures, recognizing that refusal would be perilous. Despite their notorious reputation, the Rosso family was known for honoring contracts. This gave Rimuru confidence in their partnership, ensuring mutual fulfillment of the agreement. Elmesia and Rimuru together held 61% of the company's shares, with Elmesia as the top shareholder. This control meant any betrayal by Figaro would lead to the firm's collapse. Trusting in Figaro's talent and intelligence, Elmesia was confident he wouldn't make such a foolish move, and thus he was accepted as their trusted president. With both companies up and running, Rimuru and his allies saw rapid progress. The two firms, ostensibly competitors, engaged in healthy legal competition, conducting price wars and securing exclusive distributors without resorting to force. Occasionally, some staff members attempted to involve organized crime, but these efforts invariably backfired, as REG kept a close watch and intervened when necessary. The companies grew faster than expected, developing stable organizations with clear hierarchies and specialized positions within a few months. Despite being under imperial attack, they capitalized on the war-driven demand for their goods. Although Rimuru found this opportunistic, he accepted it as a necessary evil since he profited as a shareholder. In this manner, they steadily moved towards seizing control of the local trade community. Rimuru suspected there must have been an emergency for Elmesia to visit without advance notice. One possibility was that Prince Figaro had fled, which would require implementing their countermeasures. Such a scenario would force Rimuru to give up some of his shares, a situation worth Elmesia's immediate attention. At the inn, Rimuru was led to a townhome where Elmesia was staying. As soon as he saw her, he realized something was seriously amiss. Elmesia's expression was one of deep frustration and concern, prompting Rimuru to ask what was wrong. "Do you have any idea what you have done?" Elmesia exclaimed, her anger evident. Rimuru, trying to calm the situation, asked her to explain. She told him to sit down, and he complied, kneeling on the tatami mat floor alongside Molly, who looked equally uncomfortable. Elmesia confronted Rimuru about evolving some of his people. Shocked at how she knew, Rimuru learned that Gazel had informed her. Rimuru explained that the Eastern Empire posed a significant threat. and he believed powering up his forces was necessary. He hadn't hidden his actions, even inviting Jaine to witness it. Elmesia, looking sorrowful, questioned Rimuru's motives. She expressed concern over the strength of his army and the addition of more primals like Testarossa, Carrera, and Ultima. Rimuru clarified that his goal was to build a country that was enjoyable to live in, not to wield excessive power. Despite Rimuru's explanations, Elmesia remained shaken, asking if he intended to destroy the world. Rimuru denied any destructive intentions, insisting that his actions were aimed at creating a secure and prosperous nation. As the conversation continued, Mjolnir joined in to support Rimuru. They spent the next half hour discussing the situation, trying to calm Elmesia. The conversation eventually revealed that Guy and Ludora were playing a game, using their respective pieces to determine a winner. Rimuru acknowledged that being caught in Guy's game was challenging, but felt he had no choice. Rimuru shared his reasoning for taking the initiative against the Empire, emphasizing the need to prevent constant threats and ensure the safety of his nation. Elmesia, slowly understanding Rimuru's perspective, questioned his ability to handle the situation. Rimuru confidently assured her and Mjolnir of his capabilities, reminding them of his status as part of the Octagram. In the end, the tension eased as Rimuru and Mjolnir shared a laugh, lightening the mood. Rimuru also knew that discussing a potential retreat was not what Elmesia wanted to hear, but he was prepared to escape and become a recluse if things went disastrously wrong. Elmesia, still visibly upset, questioned Rimuru on whether he intended to defeat Emperor Ludora's guard or kill them outright. Rimuru, disliking questions that presumed his victory, responded that he would avoid killing as much as possible. According to the game's rules, Guy would win once everyone except Ludora was neutralized, making the rest of the conflict no longer his concern. Elmesia, satisfied with his answer, nodded and urged him not to disappoint her. She ominously added that if things went south, she would manage matters in his nation. Rimuru, trying to lighten the mood, assured her that he had no intention of sacrificing himself nobly and that his motto was for everyone to have fun together. He wouldn't allow himself to be killed. Elmesia, smiling, reminded Rimuru of the grave consequences if he were to die. He was the only one capable of taming powerful beings like Diablo and the Primals. The other evolved creatures might not agree with each other, leading to inevitable conflict and war. She emphasized that he couldn't abandon his mission when it was still incomplete. Rimuru, understanding the seriousness of her advice, solemnly assured her that he grasped the gravity of the situation. As the game approached its final stages, Rimuru knew that only a few more strategic moves were needed to secure victory. However, a single misstep could turn everything upside down. It was crucial to remain calm and careful. The immediate priority was to contact Yuuki and formulate a plan to handle Emperor Ludora. Once that discussion was complete, the next step would be to set off for the Empire the following day. Velgrynd the Flame Dragon viewed the ongoing heavenly game between the Demon Lords and the heroes as meaningless. She had no interest in the outcome, believing that a direct battle would be a more straightforward way to determine the better player. However, since Guy and Ludora had tried and failed to settle their rivalry through direct confrontations, they resorted to this game with the sole rule of no direct fighting. Velgrynd felt her side was at a disadvantage. The only pawn Guy had who could defeat Ludora was Velzard, her sister and natural enemy. Conversely, Velgrynd was the only one with a chance against Guy. Despite her resolve to fight if ordered by Ludora, she doubted her readiness to face Guy, feeling like the underdog from the start. Scheming and meticulous preparations were not Velgrynd's strengths. She preferred to follow Ludora's orders directly rather than engage in long-term strategies. Her sister Velzard, the Ice Dragon, was a formidable opponent due to their elemental opposites: heat and ice, acceleration and stillness. A battle between the two would likely result in mutual destruction, leaving nothing but reincarnations of themselves with preserved memories but altered identities. This prospect scared Velgrynd, as she didn't want to lose her love for Ludora. She defined complete victory as ensuring both her and Ludora's safety. They needed some form of insurance, which was proving difficult to manage. Velgrynd found the situation troublesome, especially since her brother, who broke the seal, hadn't even come to see her. Velgrynd was frustrated with Veldora, whom she saw as their insurance. It never crossed her mind that he might be afraid of her. The Veldora she remembered would have rampaged across the world by now. However, he was now allied with a new demon lord and had even attended the recent Walpurgis Council, making Velgrynd suspect he had lost his mind after years of imprisonment. Velgrynd was shocked that Veldora, a fan of large-scale mayhem, remained silent in the face of a million-strong army. He was still hiding in the depths of the labyrinth, an unexpected turn of events. She wondered why he hadn't shown up this time, given his protective nature over his territory during the last Imperial invasion. Infiltrating the Forest of Jura should have inevitably led to an encounter with its guardian dragon, which was precisely what Ludora wanted. Ludora believed that a few transcendent individuals were more valuable than a strong army. Velgrynd understood his logic. Those who survived extreme circumstances could evolve beyond humanity. Ludora's strategy was to mislead their commanders, motivating them to fight harder despite the grim odds. Velgrynd found the overconfidence of the core commanders almost laughable, knowing an army enhanced by science had no chance against Veldora. She anticipated massive casualties but hoped some survivors would awaken to Ludora's powers, increasing their chances of victory. Despite Velgrynd's expectations, the outcome of the invasion left her speechless. Velgrynd was taken aback by the news that the entire army had been wiped out. Both she and Ludora were shocked by the scale of the defeat, with not a single survivor to show for their efforts. The plan was to provide experience to their soldiers, raising them to the level of Imperial Knights and potentially awakening some of them. Instead, the mission ended in complete failure. This loss was underscored by the fact that the Imperial Knights sent on undercover missions also went silent, leading to a major loss with no gain. Ludora's nonchalant response didn't sit well with Velgrynd, but the intense frustration in his eyes mirrored her own feelings, dispelling her anger. Velgrynd switched her focus, realizing that losing an entire army was not as critical as understanding the opponent who caused this defeat. They needed to be certain of who was responsible. She wondered if Veldora was behind this, recalling reports of him destroying an army of 20,000 in Farmus. Despite not seeing any signs of violence from Veldora, the situation demanded clarity. Velgrynd expected detailed reports to arrive soon, addressed to the Marshal. She trusted Ludora's power and was eager to get his perspective on the defeat. Her brother, Veldora, known for his love of chaos, would have likely seized the opportunity to go on a rampage if 1,000,000 soldiers invaded his territory. She assumed they'd find out if he truly could control his aura now, to the point that they couldn't even spot his presence. Velgrynd found joy in witnessing her brother Veldora's growth. Despite his foolishness and being a handful to deal with, she cherished him deeply and wanted to recruit him to their side to prevent him from joining Guy. Learning about Veldora's progress was crucial to her. Ludora then shared everything he knew about their recent failures. The opening battle's major losses, legions lost in the labyrinth, the powerful magic that wiped out their forces, and Caligulio's awakening. He also detailed the defeat of the armored corps, as if he had witnessed it himself. Ludora informed her that all 4 remaining primals were aiding the demon lord Rimuru, making it unnecessary for Veldora to intervene directly. Realizing the balance of the game had collapsed, Velgrynd questioned if this was part of Guy's plan all along. Ludora, chuckling, admitted that they were now at a huge disadvantage. They had spent years building their strength, only for Rimuru to gain unimaginable power in a short time. This realization fueled Velgrynd's desire to confront this new threat. Despite their efforts, Ludora admitted that even his power couldn't penetrate Ramirez's labyrinth. The Labyrinth Master, previously thought to be an impartial referee, was now fully supporting Rimuru. Ramirez's mazecraft skill effectively shut out all information from the labyrinth, presenting a new challenge. Although Ramirez had lost her power as the arbitrator and seemed insignificant, her labyrinth proved to be an impenetrable hiding place. Previously, they could see inside it through Bernie and Jiwoo's eyes, but now they had lost sight, suggesting a ploy to catch them off guard. This was troubling, as they had no idea what was happening inside. Typically, Velgrynd would assume Veldora was involved, but this situation seemed more complex. Rimuru had apparently placed powerful allies within the labyrinth, including Veldora. Velgrynd doubted that her brother would meekly take orders, especially from someone like Rimuru. Veldora was known for defying Velgrynd and Velzard, his other sister, and couldn't be easily subdued by force. This raised the question of how Rimuru managed to control him. Velgrynd contemplated asking Rimuru directly, a suggestion that made Ludora laugh. They both realized that Rimuru, now allied with the Primals and possibly Veldora, could no longer be ignored. They needed to act swiftly to wrest Veldora from Guy's influence. Ludora pointed out that Guy, having seen their initial advance fail, would likely lower his guard, making it an opportune moment for their move. Velgrynd was pleased to see Ludora ready to settle matters with Guy. They decided to seize this opportunity to gain control over Veldora and possibly crush Rimuru's growing influence. Velgrynd offered to take the lead in the upcoming confrontation, confident in Ludora's support. With Tatsuya's interesting plan, they believed they could quickly recover from their recent setbacks and turn the tide in their favor. Velgrynd, exuding confidence, viewed the nightmarish primals as no match for a true dragon like herself in a direct confrontation. She suggested making an example of a group plotting against Ludora, but Ludora preferred to keep them alive for Tatsuya's proposal, which aimed to provoke a major battle and attract Guy's attention. Despite Velgrynd's desire for divine punishment, she accepted Ludora's plan, recognizing its logical sense. Her love for Ludora was clear, though she had no love for humans and saw death as the only outcome for those betraying the Emperor. She agreed to spare the traitors for now, focusing on their current strategy. Ludora proposed withdrawing their forces temporarily, acknowledging the futility of a two-pronged strategy at this point. He suggested they could attack Luminous later, and once they persuaded Veldora to join them, everything would fall into place. Velgrynd agreed and decided to call back Gradam and his forces to prevent any resistance, while planning to keep the rebels subjugated and take down Dworgen to distract Guy. With their scheming concluded, Velgrynd stood ready. It had been millennia since she actively participated in the game, and now the stage was set for a significant and tragic event, later known as the Red Purge. The imperial capital was shrouded in darkness, despite the natural gas-powered streetlights. Hidden back alleys remained untouched by light, embodying the city's lingering shadows. Misha, who found comfort in the darkness, walked these streets where she was born and raised. Following her report to Yuuki, she stayed hidden, preparing for the impending coup. The Imperial Army's invasion made it dangerous for an officer like her to be seen publicly, as desertion was punishable by death. Misha was an expert in intel gathering and confident in her ability to navigate the city's dark underbelly, evading the Imperial Intelligence Bureau. Tonight, however, her confidence was tested when a man blocked her path. Tatsuya Kondo, a feared figure in the IIB and likely the commander of the Imperial Guardians. Misha knew she stood no chance against him in a one-on-one confrontation. Kondo's cold voice resonated as he questioned her presence in the capital during wartime. Despite her internal panic, Misha maintained a serene facade, attempting to explain her situation. She couldn't believe Kondo had found her in such a remote part of the city and feared the worst. Desperately, she searched for a way to escape, knowing that her escorts couldn't buy her any time against this formidable adversary. Feigning innocence, Misha claimed that Lord Caliglio had sent her on a secret mission back to the capital. Misha had to deceive Kondo somehow, while keeping her guard up and searching for others in the dark alleyway. Her bodyguards had disappeared without her noticing a fight, making her realize just how outclassed they were. Knowing deception might not work, she planned to ask Damrada for help, though doubts about his loyalty troubled her. Damrada had arranged their meeting place to discuss a top-secret conference with Rimuru, leading Misha to worry he might have betrayed them. Misha and Damrada, both leaders of Cerberus, had known each other for over 20 years. Despite her concerns, Misha decided to trust him and believed in her friends until the end. She then turned to Kondo, thanking Emperor Ludora for their encounter and implying Kondo had taken out her pursuers. As she approached Kondo, she used her feminine charms, including curse perfume and the illusory magic charm, to manipulate him, intending to gain control over him both physically and emotionally. Masha had been using her charms on Caligulio and many other men, confident in her ability to make them fall for her. She believed that even if she couldn't win in battle, her opponents would succumb to their desires. As she embraced Kondo, she sensed him relaxing and thought her plan was working. She whispered an invitation to go somewhere private, and Kondo seemed to agree. However, this was the last thought Misha would ever have. Kondo, having produced a Nambu semi-automatic handgun, shot her in the temple. The smoke from the muzzle confirmed the weapon used. Kondo's unique skill, Decipherer, had already read Misha's thoughts, revealing her objectives, Yuki's plans, and the fate of the Imperial troops. Despite the devastating truths, Kondo's expression remained unchanged. As Kondo spoke into the darkness about the coup, Damrada emerged. He questioned Kondo's decision to kill Misha, suggesting she could have been useful with the right education. Kondo dismissed this, stating that Misha's skills were insufficient to serve His Majesty and that she couldn't penetrate his defenses. Damrada accepted Kondo's decision, recognizing there was no point in arguing. He felt mixed emotions over Misha's fate, one of his friends. Kneeling next to her, he used a soft light to close her wound, pushed her protruding eyeball back into its socket, and cleaned her face to restore some of her beauty. He couldn't bring her back to life, but he wanted her to rest in peace. Kondo, cold and emotionless, questioned Damrada's actions, telling him to leave the body for disposal. Damrada, unable to put his emotions aside, responded that he couldn't be as detached as Kondo. Kondo insisted he had no emotions, attributing his loyalty to Emperor Ludora, who saved him from hell. He warned Damrada that any betrayal would be met with no mercy. Assuring Kondo of his loyalty, Damrada was reminded that he was under Kondo's scrutiny and needed to prove his trustworthiness through actions. Kondo walked away without looking back, and Damrada took a final glance at Misha before leaving. The darkness of the Imperial capital, deep and consuming, erased any trace of the night's events, with agents from the Intelligence Bureau disposing of Misha's body as if it had never happened. Upon receiving Yuki's instructions, Kigali swiftly mobilized. The upcoming coup required meticulous preparation, so messengers were dispatched immediately, and within a few days, all major players from around the world were gathered at Yuki's mansion in the Imperial capital. Nearly 30 agents, all swearing absolute loyalty to Yuki, were present. Some, like Vega, were embedded in other Imperial corps and couldn't attend, but about half of Yuki's executive staff were there. The coup had been in the works for a while, and the attendees eagerly awaited Yuki's speech, feeling the time was near. These individuals were highly capable, having climbed the ranks through their own strengths and making names for themselves in the military. Their loyalty to Emperor Ludora was non-existent from the start, with some even excited at the prospect of an empire-wide revolution. The group consisted of visitors from other worlds, halflings with unusual skills, superhumans subjected to cruel body enhancement experiments, and top-tier adventurers trained by Yuki. There were also enslaved warriors collected by Damrada and magic-born under Misha's protection. In Yuki's mansion, a large meeting room upstairs was filled with nearly 30 of his most loyal agents. Yuki entered with Kigali, greeting everyone cheerfully. He informed them about an upcoming meeting with the demon lord Rimuru, causing immediate uproar. Concerns about the coup being a solo effort and doubts about trusting Rimuru were raised. Yuki revealed that the Imperial army had been annihilated by Rimuru, who killed 940,000 troops. This news was hard for the audience to believe, given the swift turnaround. He explained that they needed fighting power to overthrow the Empire, hence the alliance with Rimuru. Many in the audience questioned the reliability of this information, learning that Misha had brought it back. Yuki's trust in Misha reassured them, as she was known for her competence and leadership within Cerberus. Despite initial dissatisfaction with being kept in the dark, the group began to accept the alliance. Yuki admitted losing to Guy Crimson, the Lord of Darkness, which led to a promise he had to keep. The audience, amazed that Yuki survived the encounter, expressed their opinions, but Yuki urged them to accept the situation and focus on the arrangements for the next day's meeting and their future operations. In the Imperial capital, the only remaining official forces were the IIB and a large number of new recruits. While the top-ranking IIB personnel were a threat, the rank and file weren't much of a military force. The new recruits, numbering around 100,000, lacked real skill and were considered mere fill-ins, not worth worrying about in the coup attempt. Additionally, there were about 20,000 guards serving as police, but their equipment was no match for a military, making them ineffective in stopping the coup for long. The most formidable forces, the Imperial Guardians, were still at the Emperor's disposal. Among the IIB, some Guardians were mingled in, making them the primary concern. During the meeting, Arius, a small but arrogant otherworlder, joked about the presence of potential traitors among the Guardians, which brought scattered laughter. This realization underscored their advantage. Mai Furuki, a high school student from Japan and loyal supporter of Yuki, questioned whether Rimuru's forces would be ready for the coup by tomorrow. Tornawat, a former slave fighter and now an intelligent staff officer in the Composite Division, speculated on the feasibility of Rimuru's army flying into the capital, noting the limitations of flight magic due to its spiritual force consumption. Tornawat's question about the feasibility of Rimuru's forces arriving by air was addressed by Aaliyah, a petite but formidable magic caster and apprentice of Ghidorah. Despite her initial response, Tornawat clarified that the Empire's surveillance network would detect any large army approaching from the sky, causing Aaliyah some embarrassment at being shown up. Yuki, stepping in to redirect the conversation, informed the group that Rimuru had contacted him through an anonymous magical call engineered by Ghidorah. Only a small number of Rimuru's allies would be arriving tomorrow, likely his top brass, as a large show of force against Ludora wouldn't be effective. Yuki reasoned that around 10 elite fighters would be present, causing the group to question if Rimuru was underestimating the Empire or mocking his allies. Orca, a slender warrior with hidden talents, expressed her doubts, but Tornawat explained the logistical challenges of mobilizing a large army, highlighting that a small team of elites was a more strategic choice. Yuki, smiling, agreed and emphasized the need to determine their own direction and strategy. He planned to discuss the matter with Rimuru and asked the group to consider their options, including what to do with Emperor Ludora. Yuki's confidence in their victory was evident, as he discussed their plans for the Emperor before the coup had even succeeded. The group, including the usually sarcastic Tornawat, accepted this discussion and focused on strategizing for the meeting with Rimuru and their subsequent operations. With the Dwarven Kingdom aware of their activities, the Composite Division forces could head to the capital without concern for their rear. The main threat in the capital was the Guardians, but Yuki, still smiling, knew the true danger lay elsewhere. An unknown entity known simply as the Marshal. Yuki pondered why Rimuru, a pacifist at heart, had taken action this time. He suspected that Guy's influence might be behind Rimuru's decision, suggesting a powerful monster in the Empire that even Guy viewed as a worthy opponent. The crowd, now excited, discussed the possibility of killing the Emperor. Yuki, however, thought it was too early to decide Ludora's fate. Ghidorah opposed killing the Emperor, and Damrada remained loyal to Ludora. Yuki didn't want to clash with them, especially if Ludora was the powerful entity Guy feared. He decided to wait and see how things turned out, considering the option of having Rimuru handle the Emperor. Strategic details would be finalized after Damrada's arrival, but Yuuki already had a draft outline. The composite division would overrun and capture the capital, with the assembled agents handling any Imperial Guardians who opposed them. Yuuki had high expectations for his capable team, believing their numerical advantage would compensate for the Guardians' strength. The big targets like Ludora and the Marshal would be left to Rimuru, who Yuuki believed would accept this role, considering his involvement in the fight. With the Imperial capital vulnerable and no reinforcements expected, Yuuki's plan seemed almost certain to succeed. The armored division had been destroyed by Rimuru, and the composite division would soon join the coup. The magical beast division was far away, unable to intervene in time. Victory appeared imminent, but Yuuki couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. As the tension in the meeting room grew, a calm voice echoed, "Pardon my lateness." The presence of Damrada, a key ally, had an immediate impact, cooling the heated atmosphere. Yuuki acknowledged him, and with Damrada finally there, the group was ready to finalize their plans. Damrada arrived at the meeting dressed in his military uniform, an unusual choice that immediately worried Yuuki. When Damrada announced Misha's death at Kondo's hands, the hall fell silent, and everyone went on guard. Yuuki's lingering uneasiness exploded into full realization. Something significant had been overlooked. Yuuki and Damrada's relationship ran deep, built on shared machinations and the establishment of Cerberus. Yuuki began to suspect that Cerberus had been built according to the Empire's plan, with Damrada recruiting its core members to identify and cultivate talent. Yuuki wondered if he himself had been discovered and nurtured by Damrada in the same manner, realizing that he might have been a pawn rather than the manipulator. Despite this realization, Yuuki believed Damrada's loyalty was genuine, and considered the possibility that Damrada had been unknowingly manipulated. Reflecting on their last meeting, Yuuki trusted his instincts that the manipulation had occurred recently. With these thoughts, Yuuki let out an exhausted sigh and questioned Damrada about when the manipulation had begun. Damrada's indifferent response indicated he was unaware of being manipulated. Yuuki, trusting his instincts, decided not to confront Damrada, but to focus on understanding the intentions of those who had sent him. Yuuki was certain that someone was controlling Damrada, and this realization heightened his concern about their delicate situation. He suspected that they might already be surrounded by the time they dealt with Damrada. Lost in thought, Yuuki and Kigali quietly analyzed the situation, while the enraged audience reacted to Damrada's behavior. Yalia and Tornawat confronted Damrada, accusing him of betrayal. Damrada, aloof and unwavering in his allegiance to Emperor Ludora, dismissed their accusations. This enraged the group, who had always viewed Damrada's corruption by money with suspicion. Tornawat, in an attempt to protect Damrada and understand his actions, lifted him by his shirt and demanded answers. Damrada, with cold eyes, reminded Tornawat of his past advice to be strong for the greater good. Demonstrating his strength, Damrada shattered Tornawat's wrist with a precise move, forcing Tornawat to retreat and heal himself. Yuuki, observing Damrada's power, realized that Damrada was a formidable opponent. Ranking high among the single digits meant Damrada could outclass a room full of champions. Yuuki wondered if Damrada possessed an ultimate skill and how proficient he was at using it. Yuuki contemplated whether his anti-skill would work against Damrada. The outcome would determine if he needed to kill Damrada, so he didn't intervene as the confrontation unfolded. Warius accused Damrada of being the Emperor's dog, expressing anger over being tricked. Tornawat, feeling betrayed yet indebted, declared his intention to make Damrada's death painless. However, as Tornawat raised his battle mace, Damrada swiftly ducked the strike and countered with a seemingly light but powerful palm strike to Tornawat's chest. Tornawat, feeling both betrayed and indebted, challenged Damrada, who demonstrated his strength with a devastating spiral penetrator, a Jin martial arts move that destroyed Tornawat's internal organs. Damrada's swift and lethal roundhouse kick further showcased his prowess by killing Arius, a skilled assassin. This display emphasized Damrada's belief in the superiority of a well-trained body and mind over esoteric abilities, infuriating those present. In the midst of the confrontation, Yuuki calmly observed, concluding that someone was controlling Damrada. The fact that Damrada spared Torniwat but mercilessly killed Arius, a member of the Imperial Guardians, indicated his free will was limited by whoever was manipulating him. Recognizing the powerful force controlling Damrada, Yuuki considered his next move, aiming to understand and counter the true intentions behind this manipulation. The tense atmosphere underscored the complexity of their situation, with Yuuki seeking the best solution to navigate these challenges. Yuuki swiftly ordered a retreat operation, leaving Kigali in charge and instructing everyone to regroup with the composite division. Despite Aaliyah's suggestion to deal with Damrada immediately, Yuuki rejected the idea. He explained that Damrada was stalling for time, controlled by someone trying to wipe them out. The revelation met mixed reactions, but helped the group regain their sense of judgment. Kigali, understanding the urgency, led the retreat. Yuuki turned to face Damrada, prepared for a confrontation. The group, including Aaliyah carrying the injured Torniwat, executed the retreat in an orderly manner, disappearing into the night. Left alone in the meeting hall, Yuuki and Damrada exchanged words. Damrada, confident in the IIB's strength, taunted Yuuki, who remained determined to find a way out. Despite the serious situation, both shared a moment of mutual understanding, acknowledging their shared ambition. Damrada saw Yuuki Kagurazaka as a good boss, albeit with a childish side that sometimes led to immature decisions. However, Yuuki's cool-headed and calculating nature made life under him anything but boring. This trust was why Damrada believed Yuuki must realize that Kondo was controlling him like a puppet at this very moment. Damrada's loyalty to Emperor Ludora was unparalleled, transcending any recognition or approval he had for Yuuki. To Damrada, Ludora was everything, and fulfilling his promise to the Emperor was his life's mission. He had known Ludora longer than Kondo, which perhaps made him too confident that he wouldn't be targeted. Unfortunately, Kondo proved to be more dangerous than Damrada anticipated. Right after bidding farewell to Misha, Damrada found himself under Kondo's control. Despite maintaining full consciousness, he couldn't break free from Kondo's grip. Every action was dictated by Kondo, rendering Damrada a puppet to his manipulations. Damrada, aware of Kondo's control over his body, pinned his hopes on Yuuki to understand his situation and take action. Despite being restricted, Damrada attempted to relay as much information as he could to Yuuki, hoping that Yuuki would carry on his will and fulfill their objectives. Yuuki noticed Damrada's subtle hints and expressed his intention to help, despite Damrada's skepticism. The joyful feeling in Damrada's heart, controlled or not, couldn't be erased. Kigali, leading over 30 warriors, was trying to flee the imperial capital at night, as Yuuki had ordered, heading towards the composite division camp near the Empire's border with the Dwarven Kingdom. This camp was over 300 miles away, a journey that would take merchant caravans more than 10 days. The group, all-powerful individuals, could cover the distance in a few hours if they kept running without breaks. Despite the availability of transport gates, using them wasn't feasible due to their heavy guard and limited capacity. Kigali decided against causing trouble and focused on strengthening her force's position instead. As they ran, Teare, a young masked woman, expressed concern for Kigali, who assured her everything was fine. Kigali, once the demon lord Kazalim, had endured years in a spiritual body, and now, thanks to Yuuki, had a homunculus body. Her fighting strength was on par with high-level magic-born. Despite outward confidence, Kigali felt growing panic and sensed imminent danger. Kigali asked Teara and Footman to contact Laplace via telepathy, insisting he return despite his messenger run. The alarm bells in her mind grew louder, prompting her to act urgently without explaining further. Trusting her instincts, Kigali moved on to her next order. Kigali, aware of the dire situation, ordered everyone to disperse and prioritize survival. However, it was too late. Lieutenant Kondo and a group of Imperial Guardians emerged from the darkness, surrounding Kagali's group. Combat was inevitable. Each Imperial Guardian was clad in Legend-class armor, creating a significant gear disadvantage for Kagali's forces. Despite this, Turmoil and Aliyah were ready to fight. Kagali, understanding the slim chances of survival, decided to buy time for her comrades. She stepped forward to face Kondo, knowing her strength was far below his, but hoping to serve as a decoy. Kondo, unimpressed, dismissed her attempts as futile, emphasizing that wanting it more wouldn't win the war. Kagali remained determined, believing in the possibility of a miracle. Kagali felt a deep humiliation as Kondo revealed her identity as a former demon lord, something known to only a few. Kondo dismissed her and her efforts, revealing that Emperor Ludora had organized a force to defeat the Composite Division, implying that all their plans were already known to the Empire. This revelation ignited Kagali's anger, Kondo's disdain for those unable to evolve, and his knowledge of their scheme infuriated her. Footman, inspired by Kagali's anger, attacked Kondo with massive magic missiles, causing chaos and triggering sirens in the city. Despite the overwhelming situation, Kagali reminded herself to stay calm. Kondo was trying to provoke her. Kagali's realization of Kondo's influence over Damrada sent a chill down her spine. The battle around her intensified as Footman and Tiare joined the fray, fighting alongside Yuki's comrades against the formidable Imperial Guardians. Kondo, now wielding a revolver and a masterful sword, seemed unfazed by the chaos. The sword he carried was no ordinary weapon. It was a family heirloom from the Imperial Japanese Navy, its blade adorned with a mesmerizing rippled pattern. Kagali realized that Kondo, wielding his sword with one hand, wasn't showing his full strength. She sensed that he wasn't trying to kill them outright and might see some value in them. Her sudden realization led her to shout a warning that Kondo might control people. To her surprise, Kondo admitted it without hesitation, which unsettled her even more. Kondo's behavior was baffling, and Kagali couldn't understand his intentions. His earlier statement about not putting up with their stalling attempts now made sense. He was stalling for time too. This revelation made Kagali recognize Kondo's intricate control over the situation. His taunts and calm demeanor suggested he could easily decipher thoughts and gather information from those he controlled. Kagali's disbelief at Kondo's apparent openness about his abilities. Then he stated that he was going easy on them was too hassle for him. This statement about going easy enraged Tiare and Footman. Despite Kagali's efforts to calm them, Kondo's presence changed the atmosphere entirely as he grasped his sword with both hands, demonstrating the aura of a true master. Footman, ignoring defense, used his unique skill amplifier to increase his speed and mass, unleashing his finishing move, Angry Splatter, with confidence. However, Kondo calmly executed his skill, Thundering Universe, severing Footman's arms and legs in an instant. The swift and precise action left Footman severely injured and out of the battle. Kagali's realization that Kondo was indeed stalling came too late. Despite her hatred for being toyed with, she searched for a way out. Recognizing the impossibility of escape and the challenge of buying more time, she decided on a suicide strike to prevent information leaks. As a walking dead, Kagali wouldn't truly die. She would lose her physical body, but could inhabit someone else to survive. Footman and Tiare, also walking dead, would understand her plan. If they all advanced on Kondo simultaneously, they could fulfill their objective without revealing their intentions. Even if they lost their bodies, they could escape and avoid the worst-case scenario. Kagali's decision, though frustrating given the effort Yuki put into obtaining her body, was the best option to protect their mission and ensure their survival. Kagali's mind was set on a suicide strike to prevent information leaks. She believed that even if Laplace joined them, victory against Kondo wasn't assured. Determined to take decisive action, Kagali unleashed her full power, pushing her borrowed body to its limits. Footman and Tiare, understanding her plan, followed suit, preparing for a final desperate assault. Despite their efforts, Kondo remained unfazed. He calmly sheathed his sword and spot-checked his revolver, then revealed his knowledge about their ability to survive in spiritual form. This information, known only to a few, shocked Kigali and her comrades. Kondo explained that precise intelligence was crucial in war, mocking their lack of preparation. Kigali's frustration grew as Kondo's calm demeanor and revealing statements further emphasized his control over the situation. His taunts about their disappointing comrades and strategic failures only added to the tension. Also, Kigali's anger exploded as Kondo confessed to controlling Clayman. She realized that many of her plan's failures were due to Kondo's manipulation. Footman, sensing Kigali's anger, amplified it, falling into Kondo's trap. Kondo taunted Kigali, calling her emotional response a novice mistake. He then fired a Dominion bullet, which targeted the mind, not the body, and was capable of controlling others. Despite having an ample supply, Kondo used these bullets carefully due to their limitations. With Kigali now under his control, Kondo ordered her to command her cohorts to cease hostilities. Kigali complied, revealing the locking curse on their souls that prevented disobedience. Realizing the futility of resistance, Kigali's comrades decided it was better to be captured. In the silence that enveloped the capital, Kondo's words resonated with the harsh reality of survival. He emphasized that their powerlessness led to their downfall and that ambitions and ideals need to be integrated into a stronger will to be acted upon. Kondo's adherence to the survival of the fittest was evident, and he showed a certain respect for Kigali and her friend's resolve, acknowledging that if he were to lose, he would face the same fate. Yuuki and Damrada were locked in a fierce battle, exchanging blows with remarkable speed and precision. Damrada aimed a spinning back blow at Yuuki's face, targeting a pressure point, but Yuuki blocked it with his palm. Yuuki then tried to gain control of Damrada's wrist, but Damrada countered with a chop to hold him back. Anticipating this, Yuuki twisted his upper body and executed a double kick. Damrada quickly reacted by sinking down and sweeping with his leg. Yuuki, predicting this move, jumped and attempted a spinning kick at Damrada's head, but Damrada had already moved to a safe distance. Their exchange of martial arts techniques was sophisticated and refined, beyond the capabilities of ordinary humans. The speed and precision of their movements made it difficult for a normal human eye to follow, almost as if they were in a training session. Amid their physical combat, Yuuki and Damrada were also communicating telepathically. Yuuki finally managed to establish a telepathy link with Damrada, discovering that Damrada possessed an ultimate skill. Damrada revealed that his ultimate skill was borrowed, which intrigued Yuuki, given that such skills are usually self-acquired and reflect a person's inner desires and power. Damrada also revealed that his ultimate skill was granted by His Majesty, which intrigued Yuuki. He had to accept this unusual explanation given Damrada's testimony. Yuuki then asked if His Majesty could grant skills to anyone. Damrada clarified that only those with immense energy, like other worlders, could handle such power. Most people, he explained, lack the capacity for even unique skills, let alone ultimate ones. This led to the discussion of why His Majesty was gathering strong individuals. Damrada explained that, through extensive training, humans could evolve into enlightened beings, eventually reaching sainthood. Only those who met the minimum requirement of being enlightened could become Imperial Guardians. They also discussed the formidable strength of individuals like Guy, who was unbeatable even by a saint. To defeat someone of Guy's caliber, one must possess an ultimate skill. His Majesty's trials for the enlightened aim to help them awaken further, making them worthy vessels for ultimate skills. Yuuki understood the reasoning behind this strategy, acknowledging that it made sense to prepare strong individuals to wield such power. Yuuki and Damrada smiled at each other, recognizing the logic in the seemingly illogical. Yuuki admired the methodology that could gather many people with ultimate skills, although he disliked that someone else had thought of it first. He acknowledged that such a plan required someone as uniquely qualified as Ludora to execute. Through their telepathic exchange, Damrada expressed pride in Emperor Ludora, who could grant ultimate powers. Damrada's loyalty to Ludora was evident, even though he remained loyal to Yuuki. Yuuki questioned if Ludora waged wars to awaken more knights. Damrada confirmed, explaining that previous conflicts, despite setbacks, led to the evolution of individuals into enlightened beings, increasing their power. As they continued their telepathic conversation while sparring, Yuuki broke through Damrada's psychological barriers, finding the core of the power controlling him. Damrada trusted Yuuki's anti-skill ability to overcome Kondo's control, despite the risk of Kondo finding out. Yuuki used his new ultimate skill, Mammon, Lord of Greed, which specialized in seizing energy, to bring Damrada back to normal. This skill allowed Yuuki to absorb different types of energy from his opponent, using it to his advantage in battle. Lifestealer didn't work on Damrada due to his immense strength, maintained in perfect condition even under Kondo's control. Damrada's body was protected by Alternative, an ultimate skill provided by the Emperor, making him an undefeated champion. Kondo controlled Damrada using Dominion bullets, which were higher level than Alternative. Yuuki had to use his anti-skill ability to break down the barriers and found the Dominion bullet lodged in Damrada's soul. With Damrada's permission, Yuuki shattered the bullet, freeing Damrada. Grateful, Damrada decided to join Yuuki, who was concerned about Kagali's group. As they prepared to leave, a cold voice questioned Damrada's intentions, hinting at a new crisis. Without a sound, a powerful presence appeared, a woman with blue hair and a beautiful face. Yuuki felt he had seen her before. Damrada's whisper, Lady Velgrynd, confirmed her identity. Velgrynd was a true dragon, one of the strongest beings in the world, making the situation dire. Yuuki realized fighting Velgrynd head-on would be suicide, but he refused to give up. He aimed to find another way to achieve victory. Velgrynd admired Yuuki for not losing his nerve, and indicated she had no business with him, but her husband did. Next to Velgrynd stood a man in an extravagant outfit, resembling Masayuki, but with differences like shining blonde hair and piercing eyes. Yuuki realized this man was Emperor Ludora. Damrada, kneeling, confirmed Ludora's identity. Yuuki wondered why Ludora was there. Yuuki, surprised to see Emperor Ludora in a meeting hall, sarcastically asked if the Emperor was bored. Ludora, unfazed, replied that he was busy, engaged in a critical game against Guy. This astonished Damrada, who never expected Ludora to address someone of lower status. Ludora then ordered Yuuki to join him, promising to let him keep his free will if he agreed. Yuuki, feeling an overwhelming urge to comply, realized this was no ordinary power. It was pure charisma, the supreme authority of a ruler. He resisted with all his might, spitting in anger as he felt Ludora's control break. Velgrynd, amused by Ludora's confusion, explained that his presence was mistaken for a mental attack and suggested a lighter touch. Yuuki, regaining his composure, acknowledged their power, but taunted them for not conquering the entire world, calling them incompetent despite their strength. As usual, Yuuki began with provocation. Velgrynd responded, suggesting they kill him, but Ludora saw potential in Yuuki if given the right education. Yuuki snorted at Ludora's degrading comment, but knew he had to act fast with Velgrynd around. He challenged Ludora to show real power if he wanted Yuuki to join him. Yuuki activated his ultimate skill, Mammon, which converts desires into power. He targeted Ludora, planning to take him as a hostage against Velgrynd. With Life Absorb in his right hand and anti-skill, Yuuki aimed to penetrate any barriers and take control. If Ludora survived, Yuuki would use heart control to dominate him emotionally and mentally. However, just as Yuuki's hand was about to touch Ludora, Velgrynd intervened, stating, "You will not lay a hand on Ludora in my presence." Yuuki pushed his body to its limits, but Velgrynd effortlessly stepped between him and the Emperor, swatting his hand away. The immense energy from Velgrynd overwhelmed Yuuki, causing him to vomit blood as his body was infused with more magicules than it could handle. He managed to twist away just in time to avoid complete destruction, realizing the danger too late. Velgrynd's mere push caused Yuuki's own lifestealer ability to absorb far more energy than he could control, resulting in self-inflicted damage. Despite his attack, Velgrynd remained unfazed, treating Yuuki's effort as insignificant. Recognizing the vast power difference, Yuuki understood how insurmountable the challenge was. He knew he couldn't defeat Velgrynd and Ludora, realizing they were on the same level as Guy. With no choice but to wait for his enemy to make a move, Yuuki decided to protect his dignity, even if it meant facing death. Ludora offered to respond to Yuuki's request to see his power, while Velgrynd cautioned against it. Yuuki, admitting his likely defeat, refused to give up and continued to grandstand, determined to have things his way until the end. Infused with new determination, Yuuki glared at Ludora, who responded with a curious smile. Ludora offered Yuuki a challenge. If Yuuki could endure his domination, he would be free to go. Yuuki, unable to read Ludora's intentions, saw this as an opportunity to gain experience and power. Yuuki found Ludora's confidence unsettling, but he decided to bet everything on his Mammon skill. Ludora, bemused and excited, saw potential in Yuuki as a treacherous ally if he could withstand the challenge. Defeat wasn't on Yuuki's mind, he was determined to prove his strength. Velgrynd, knowing Ludora well, stepped back, ready to avenge him if necessary. Ludora, chuckling, stepped forward, and Yuuki followed, ignoring his pain. Ludora mentioned receiving a report from Tatsuya, Lieutenant Kondo, about the moderate jesters and their leader's capture. He revealed that he knew everything about Yuuki, including his ultimate skill. Realizing that all his secrets had been leaked, Yuuki felt a sense of doom. Suddenly, Yuuki had an urge to throw everything away. His mind told him he was out of ideas, but his pride wouldn't let him retreat. Most of all, he realized Kigali might not be dead, and Ludora had a domination skill similar to Kondo's. Instead of running, he quickly formulated a risky plan that made him feel better than having no strategy at all. Yuuki sarcastically thanked Ludora, claiming his ease would be his downfall. Ludora, taking another step forward, assumed a unique fighting stance indicating he would defeat Yuuki purely by domination. Yuuki saw through Ludora's honest and firm personality, realizing that winning was impossible, but he hoped to cancel out Ludora's domination. Betting on a slim chance, Yuuki challenged Ludora to bring it on. Ludora sprang into action with a balletic move, activating his imperial domination, a pinnacle power from his ultimate skill, Michael, Lord of Justice. Unlike the version given to Kondo, Ludora's skill had no limitations and was far stronger. For someone as recently awakened as Yuuki, there was no way to resist. Ludora stood dignified as Yuuki collapsed. The winner seemed clear, but the outcome was still uncertain. Velgrynd questioned Ludora about sparing Yuuki, but Ludora found it amusing and saw it as a reward for Yuuki's resistance. Confident in his dominance, Ludora didn't doubt his victory. Ludora smiled and addressed Damrada, asking him to stay out of the way. Damrada agreed, and Ludora instructed him to take care of Yuuki when he woke up. Satisfied, Ludora left with Velgrynd, ready to tighten his control over the government. As they departed, the sky turned red, signaling the beginning of a new era and the upheaval to come. The armed nation of Dwagon's East City faced a blockade of 60,000 people, but it was a ruse. Both sides had allied secretly, with commanders ensuring no accidents occurred. The lower-ranked soldiers were relaxed, but a shared tension indicated their high level of training. Morale was high as their superiors were in a final meeting, planning to overthrow the empire and build a new nation. The soldiers noticed a red sky over the imperial capital, signaling something significant. Confusion and anxiety spread, with suggestions to send a recon team or organize troops. However, they feared exposing themselves as traitors. With their superiors absent, the composite division, already seen as a motley crew, lost cohesion. 0. Yuuki's appointed Corps Vice Commander restored order, insisting they wait for Yuuki and others to return. Despite following orders, anxiety remained. Their fears materialized when Velgrynd appeared, strolling casually along the street. Her presence and blue hair were unmistakable, causing the soldiers to send messages to their superiors and surround her. A confident soldier from the composite division stepped forward to confront Velgrynd, warning her against picking a fight with so many people. He boasted about their strength, calling them the strongest army of the Empire. Velgrynd, with a tone of someone from the highest echelons of society, mocked their claim, suggesting they should stop allowing such delusions even at the division level. Her words immediately alerted everyone to her dangerous presence. Zero, the vice commander, rushed to the scene upon hearing the reports. Recognizing Velgrynd as the Marshal, he was taken aback by her overwhelming aura. Velgrynd acknowledged the presence of more intelligent individuals among them and revealed that she was instructed not to kill all of them, but to have some fun until Kondo and others arrived. With that signal, the tragedy began. Gazel was having a particularly depressing day. The ongoing war was already a significant headache, but Jaine's report added to his stress, making him feel like his stomach was about to rupture. The idea of Rimuru making true demon lords out of his subordinates was baffling and troubling. He heaved a heavy sigh. True demon lords were not a species, but a status, referring to monsters that had awakened and evolved into a formidable state. These beings posed a threat at the upper end of the disaster class, which was essentially reserved for demon lords. There were only 8 known examples at the time, but now Rimuru had followers as powerful as these high-end menaces, giving the heroic king a headache. Gazel sent a complaint to Elmisia, sharing his distress. His government decided to continue observing Rimuru and his group until further problems arose, knowing that such issues could lead to a war for humanity's survival. Gazel sighed, hoping to avoid such a conflict. The bad news kept coming. Urgent news arrived that the Composite Division was engaged in battle with an unknown enemy. The calm voice delivering the message masked a sense of panic. Gazel quickly assembled Dolph and his advisors. They soon learned that the enemy was a monster, an unimaginable force capable of taking down demon lords. Gazel, on a magical call with Vaughn, the Admiral Paladin and Supreme Commander of Dworgen's military, received visuals confirming the worst-case scenario. The sky was burning, and a woman, a cold beauty, stood amid fallen soldiers. The flames were both mesmerizing and terrifying. Velgrynd, visible through the surveillance crystal ball, looked directly at Gazel and his team. The crystal ball shattered, confirming that she was aware of their observation. The team was shocked and horrified, unable to believe the power and reach of Velgrynd. Then Gazel listened to his advisors' explanations. They concluded that Velgrynd had sensed the magic and traced it back to the caster, a feat impossible for any humanoid. Her presence and power made it clear they were dealing with an overwhelming enemy. With the situation dire, Gazel decided to join the battle himself. Dolph protested, but Jaine agreed that abandoning Vaughn would do nothing to save Dworgen. Gazel knew they had a lot of work to do, including informing allied nations and preparing for the worst. Gazel planned to let the Old Guard handle command while the rest of the army marched on the ground. He decided to go ahead with Dolph and his Pegasus Knights, playing the role of a strong king to ease everyone's anxiety. The army mobilized quickly, but Gazel's group wouldn't wait for them. Dolph and his Pegasus Knights would accompany the king into battle. As Gazel soared through the sky, he pondered whether Rimuru's decision to empower his underlings was meant to help them survive this ordeal. He found the thought amusing, reflecting on his old training partner who clung to his ideals. His laughter was genuine, thinking perhaps Rimuru's naivety might actually work out. Dolph, noticing Gazel's amusement, inquired if something was wrong. Gazel shrugged it off, sharing his passing thought about Rimuru and how things might work out. Dolph, reminiscing about past events like the Charybdis incident, agreed that Rimuru had a knack for surprising everyone. Henrietta, usually reserved, chimed in with some sass about the challenges of monitoring Rimuru, much to Gazel and Dolph's surprise and amusement. The conversation lightened the mood as they shared laughs, with Henrietta admitting her frustrations and Gazel jokingly suggesting she share her complaints with Rimuru. They all found some relief in humor despite the tense situation. Gazel, feeling more optimistic, mentioned that he had sent a report to Rimuru, complete with some measured complaints. With his anxiety replaced by his usual heroic determination, Gazel led his group towards the battleground. After a little backstory. The day after Rimuru's drinking party with Misha, the sun was already high in the sky. Rimuru, feeling the effects of last night's fun, was greeted by Shuna's stern yet smiling demeanor. Apologizing preemptively, Rimuru tried to explain his need for some well-earned relaxation. Shuna, however, was concerned about Rimuru's troubled state from the previous night, worried he might do something rash. Rimuru reassured her, trying to appear cheerful, despite his inner jitters. With formidable opponents like Lieutenant Kondo, Velgrynd, and Emperor Ludora, Rimuru knew the danger was real, but he planned to be as safe as possible. Rimuru explained his decision to take only his strongest allies with him, including Shion's brother, who had been bragging about it all morning. Shuna's understanding smile showed she had anticipated his plan. Shuna then reported that Laplace had arrived the previous night with a message for Rimuru. Despite the abrupt change of subject, Rimuru wasn't overly concerned, thinking it was probably from Yuuki. Reluctantly, he agreed to meet Laplace, with Shuna arranging to show him to a reception room. Shuna wasn't fond of Laplace, a sentiment she rarely displayed so openly. Her dislike stemmed from the clown's role in destroying their ogre homeland, a wound that hadn't fully healed despite their current alliance. Rimuru then tasked Shuna with summoning all available cabinet staff to the meeting hall while he dealt with Laplace. There were numerous issues to consider, but the pressing matter of the war with the Empire took precedence. As he entered the reception room, he found Laplace waiting, exuding his usual air of casual mischief. Rimuru, bracing himself for whatever message Yuuki had sent, greeted Laplace and listened intently. Laplace conveyed Yuuki's cryptic hints and strategic advice regarding the movements of key figures like Velgrynd and Emperor Ludora. While valuable, the message left Rimuru with more questions than answers. Thanking Laplace, Rimuru dismissed him and shifted his focus back to the impending conflict. 20 people, including Rimuru, gathered in the meeting hall. The group comprised Rigurd and the 4 elders beneath him: Rugurd, Regurd, Rogurd, and Lilina. Kaijin, Vester, and Mjolmile were also present. Representing the 12 lordly guardians were Benimaru, Shion, Diablo, Gabil, Testarossa, Ultima, and Carrera. Additionally, Soei, Hakuro, Gobta, and Ghidorah completed the assembly. Rimuru planned to ask Ghidorah to guide him around the Empire, considering him the least affected if something went wrong. Bernie had volunteered to guide as well, but his loss of powers made him a liability, so Rimuru decided against it. As usual, Shuna served tea to everyone before quietly leaving the room. Rimuru began speaking, informing everyone about his decisions for the final battle against the Empire. He introduced Laplace, the messenger from Yuuki, who had news regarding their plans. The army blockading Dwargon's East City was set to attack the Imperial capital soon and wanted their cooperation. Guy had already mentioned this plan, and Rimuru had no objections. However, he concluded that this would be a war between elites rather than armies to avoid civilian casualties. Therefore, he needed to discuss the details with Yuuki first, leading to Laplace's introduction at the meeting. Rimuru had spoken with Yuuki via Laplace and set the date for the following afternoon. He explained this to everyone, acknowledging the importance of trust, which was why he chose to convey the message himself rather than through Laplace. Laplace introduced himself as the vice president of the Moderate Jesters, acting suspiciously as always. Rimuru couldn't just dismiss him due to his role as a messenger, despite the irritation it caused among the group, particularly Soei, who looked ready to attack. Rimuru calmly asked Soei to put away his kunai blade. Rimuru remained cautious, watching as Laplace meekly sat back down. He introduced Laplace as their current point of contact for Yuuki before moving on to the main topic, the upcoming meeting with Yuuki and the selection of companions for the journey. Laplace mentioned he could carry up to 6 people, including himself and Rimuru, so they needed to decide on the remaining 4. Rimuru wanted to deploy as much force as possible, but knew not all his top people were available. Ranga was still asleep in his shadow. Geld had yet to wake up, and the labyrinth dwellers, Kumara, Zegion, and Adalman, were still in their evolutionary slumber. Rimuru first considered Benimaru, who reassured him that he was in excellent shape. Benimaru had recently evolved into a flame soul ogre, a type of elemental soul with both holy and evil attributes, akin to a chaos elemental or a stripped-down true dragon. This evolution occurred after spending time with his new wives, Momiji and Alves. As a flame soul ogre, Benimaru possessed upgraded elemental attributes, specifically flame, an enhanced version of fire. In the natural family of elements, earth, water, fire, wind, and space, each element had its strengths and weaknesses. Fire beats earth, water beats fire, wind beats water, space beats wind, and earth beats space. In addition to the 5 major attributes, earth, water, fire, wind, and space, there are also the opposing attributes of light and darkness, as well as time, which exists beyond the restraints of the other elements. Elemental spirits like Ifrit embody these physical laws with 8 types of embodiments in total. Light and dark attributes are derived from angels and demons, respectively. Diablo, being well-versed in such matters, could provide more insight, but Rimuru wasn't particularly interested in delving deeper. The key takeaway is that there are 8 types of elemental souls, higher up than elemental spirits. True dragons are the highest ranked among them, with only 4 known to exist. Veldanova, the Star King Dragon, likely associated with space and earth. Velzard, the Ice Dragon, water-based. Velgrynd, the Flame Dragon, fire-based. And Veldora, who rules over water, wind, and space. True dragons stand at the pinnacle of all elemental souls. And Benimaru's evolution into a Flame Soul Ogre placed him in a similar category. Flame Soul Ogres are spiritual life forms with physical bodies, allowing them to interact with the material world. Their infinite lifespan and immense power make them akin to god ogres. Benimaru's evolution significantly boosted his magicule count, making him a formidable contender, possibly able to fight the single digits on equal terms. With Benimaru confirmed as the first choice, Rimuru continued with the selection process. Ghidorah was already on the list, so Rimuru had 2 picks left. He decided to bring Xian and Diablo, completing the group of 6 with Laplace, himself, Ghidorah, Benimaru, Xian, and Diablo. Xian, beaming with confidence, assured Rimuru of his safety, while Diablo expressed his readiness to put an end to Rimuru's worries. Confident as always, Diablo was someone Rimuru could rely on. While they had an elite team for this mission, they couldn't afford to be complacent. The rest of their allies would join them later in the Empire. However, before Rimuru could outline these plans, Testarossa expressed her dissatisfaction. Testarossa, born in the Empire and familiar with its geography, suggested she would be better suited as a guide. She was a talented diplomat and strong fighter, possibly even stronger than Rimuru. Ghidorah's main advantage was his acquaintance with Yuuki, but Testarossa's capabilities made her a valuable asset. With a slight nagging fear about Ghidorah's loyalty, Rimuru decided to take Testarossa's hint and replace Ghidorah with her. Testarossa, with a radiant smile, accepted the honor. Ghidorah seemed unbothered, so Rimuru felt at ease with the decision. Laplace then interjected, announcing he would go prepare. When Rimuru questioned what for, Soy revealed that Laplace had been enjoying the hot spring and dining hall, using the facilities like they were his own. Laplace, with his usual carefree attitude, admitted it and praised Tempest's charm. While Laplace's praise wasn't unwelcome, Benimaru and Xian reminded Rimuru to stay focused. Rimuru, clearing his throat, advised Laplace to keep his activities in moderation. Laplace cheerfully agreed and skipped out of the meeting hall. With Laplace gone, Rimuru turned his attention back to the meeting, ready to move on to the next topic. Zwei, Gabil, and Hakuro all voiced their concerns about the plan to send only 5 people into enemy territory. They feared for Rimuru's safety, believing that a small team would be too risky. Gobta, too, expressed his willingness to act as a meat shield, much to Rimuru's dismay. Rimuru understood their concerns, but he emphasized the importance of not assuming casualties from the start. He wanted to pool all their resources to avoid losses. Although his heart agreed with Hakuro's practical approach, Rimuru was determined to protect everyone. Rimuru emphasized that their strategy would not demand any loss of life, focusing on discussing the final stages of their war against the Empire. Zoi began by revealing he had a replication undercover within the Empire. Despite obstacles, he noted the Empire's security was looser than usual and suggested using shadow motion to meet Rimuru once Laplace organized transport. This was reassuring for Rimuru, who valued Sui's abilities highly. Sui had also evolved into a Dark Soul Ogre, a Chaos elemental with the Darkness attribute, which gave him considerable strength. Zoi's new form, a spiritual life form with a physical body, made him a powerful ally, although his magicule count was medium-sized compared to Benimaru's. Still, he was strong enough to match ex-demon lords like Carillon or Frey. Rimuru was glad to have Sui along, but was concerned about Masayuki's protection. Sui confidently stated that a replication would continue monitoring Masayuki. Then Diablo proposed installing Venom as a companion and bodyguard for Masayuki, providing additional insurance and lightening Sui's load. Venom's sensible personality and strength made him a suitable candidate, and Rimuru felt he and Masayuki might get along well, possibly becoming good friends. Confident as always, Diablo assured everyone that his work wouldn't be affected with Testarossa and the others around. This sounded great to Rimuru, who then confirmed with Sui that a visible bodyguard for Masayuki would be more effective than monitoring from the shadows. Sui agreed, noting it would save the energy consumed by his replication. With the decision made, Venom would serve as Masayuki's escort, allowing Sui to join the mission on site. The next matter was whether to deploy their army and how to present a show of force to the Empire. Their 1st and 3rd Army Corps were stationed in Rimuru after retrieving the bodies. But the 2nd Army Corps couldn't be deployed due to Gel's evolution nap. Gazel and Gobta were eager to participate, but Rimuru felt a massive army might be too risky, favoring a more specialized approach akin to a SWAT team. Rimuru consulted Hakuro, who agreed that they should avoid using novices or low-ranking soldiers to minimize casualties. Instead, they would rely on the Goblin Riders and Team Hiryu. The Goblin Riders, ranked A for their teamwork, were excellent decoys and unbeatable when it came to fleeing. Team Hiryu, following Gazel's awakening, had also surpassed A in rank, though their control over their powers was a slight concern. Rimuru instructed Gobta and Gazel to start preparations along these lines, but paused, remembering something important that needed to be addressed. He mentioned the concerns about their Star Wolf partners. Gobta confirmed that Ranga and the other wolves were still in their awakening process, rendering the Goblin Riders' high mobility advantage ineffective. Thus, Gobta's army was to stay on standby, focusing on internal security. Next, Rimuru inquired about Team Kurenai, which Benimaru confirmed had all achieved A rank, making them a reliable force with an excellent commander in Gobwa. Some team members had even evolved into ogre mages. Zui reported that Team Kurayami was deployed for intelligence operations, which Rimuru decided to let continue, recognizing the importance of their work. This left Team Reborn, which Shion eagerly offered to deploy. However, Rimuru noted that Team Reborn was most effective with Shion's leadership and opted to keep them as a bodyguard force instead. With the deployment plan set, Team Hiryu and Team Kurenai, totaling 400 members ranked A or higher, formed an excellent fighting division. However, Rimuru wanted further reassurance. He assigned Ultima to continue accompanying Gazel's force as an intelligence officer and Carrera to support Gobwa instead of Geld. Carrera reluctantly agreed, aiming to be as discreet as possible. Ultima's reply wasn't exactly reassuring, and neither was Carrera's. Ultima clearly had issues with Gazel's methods, which from her perspective lacked common sense. Gazel's casual approach to battle tactics only amplified her frustration. Despite their differences, Rimuru asked Ultima to put up with Gazel's force for the time being. Ultima agreed, albeit reluctantly, viewing it as an opportunity to teach them some essential lessons. Carrera, on the other hand, didn't need to worry about keeping a low profile. Rimuru instructed her to prioritize keeping their allies safe from damage and to stay quiet until the fighting started. Carrera found this simple enough, though Rimuru had his doubts. To ensure Carrera's compliance, Rimuru requested Hakuro to accompany Gobwa and help manage Carrera. Hakuro nodded, sniggering a bit. Just when Rimuru thought their deployment was sorted, Ghidorah raised his hand with a suggestion, including the Demon Colossus in the war. This posed a bit of a logistical challenge, but with Ghidorah in control and equipped with a resurrection bracelet and an emergency return spell, he could safely navigate any battlefield. Rimuru sought Vester's opinion, who enthusiastically suggested it was the perfect occasion to unveil the Demon Colossus. King Gazel had been eager to see it in action, and Vester wanted to collect data on its performance in real combat conditions. The Demon Colossus, best suited for close-up warfare, could intimidate opponents and sap their will to fight. However, Rimuru expressed concern about the risk of the enemy seizing the Colossus, leading to a potential technology leak. Vester assured him that they wouldn't make that mistake and mentioned a self-destruct mechanism designed to prevent any leaks. This precaution was insisted upon by Veldora, inspired by the manga Rimuru had introduced to him and Ramirez. Despite the seemingly harebrained idea, Rimuru acknowledged the value of having a self-destruct mechanism as a last resort. With the final decision made, the lineup for the mission was set. Rimuru ensured that the Demon Colossus, under Ghidorah's control, would be a strategic asset, only to be used if the Empire unleashed an unexpected weapon. Ghidorah's quick thinking and emergency measures would prevent any mishaps. Rimuru reinforced the need for optimism and a focus on an undeniable victory against the Empire. Keeping Ghidorah's potential second thoughts at bay, Rimuru aimed for an overwhelming success to solidify their position. Evening had fallen by the time the meeting concluded. Rimuru and the others prepared for the following day's plans, while Rimuru took some time to relax in the dining hall. The next morning would involve giving a pep talk to his personal entourage, followed by a transport spell to meet with Yuuki in the afternoon. Laplace would handle the transportation, ensuring they had ample time. This being a day trip, Rimuru didn't need extensive preparation, nor did he feel the need for formalities with Yuuki. In the dining hall, Benimaru joined Rimuru. Despite being newly married, Benimaru mentioned that his wives, Momiji and Alvis, were taking a cooking lesson from Shuna and had shooed him away for the day. Their informal agreement to avoid competing with each other kept Benimaru relaxed. Diablo, eager to serve, brought their meal, while Shion poured a glass of wine for Rimuru. The five-star service felt over the top for a simple meal of fried pork cutlets and rice, but Rimuru appreciated their dedication. Encouraging them to join the meal, Rimuru tried to ease the tension between Diablo and Shion, who frequently bickered. During the meal, Benimaru inquired about Rimuru's trust in Yuuki. Rimuru admitted that while complete trust was difficult, he needed to rely on Yuuki for now. Their strategy depended on this tentative trust, and they discussed contingency plans in case of betrayal. Benimaru's smile was a source of encouragement for Rimuru. Trusting allies was crucial in war, and any doubt could jeopardize their success. Despite the risk, Rimuru decided to trust Yuuki, knowing that worrying wouldn't change the decision. Curious, Rimuru asked Benimaru if he still needed to eat. Benimaru confirmed that while he didn't need to, he still enjoyed it, much like Rimuru. They both appreciated retaining their sense of taste and other human desires, which made life more enjoyable. Rimuru was surprised to learn that Benimaru still had all three major needs, including sleep, which he achieved through meditation. Even more surprising was that Benimaru retained his sex drive, and both Momiji and Alvis were pregnant. Rimuru couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy at Benimaru's perfect evolution. Their conversation continued with playful banter, Rimuru even taking Benimaru's dish in mock jealousy. They enjoyed their meal and each other's company well into the night, a usual scene for them. However, this peaceful moment was interrupted. Rimuru and his team were gathered in the dining hall. Suddenly, Laplace burst into the room, his urgency palpable. Ah, holy smokes. Guys, something really awful's happened, apparently, so I gotta get back, like, right now, he exclaimed. Vester followed close behind, his eyes wide with alarm. Bad news, Sir Rimuru. We just received a call from King Gazel. Velgrynd has appeared before the composite force, and they're requesting immediate support. Rimuru quickly rose from his seat. Okay, assemble the group, I'm leaving with ASAP. Benimaru sprang into action, and the urgency in the room intensified. Rimuru turned to Laplace. Laplace, give me just a little bit. We'll join you. Laplace hesitated, still in shock. Well, if you want, but... Rimuru saw the severity of the situation in Vester's report. Something major was happening in the Empire, and even Laplace seemed out of the loop. Rimuru knew they needed to stay calm and united. I know this is a big deal, but don't panic. We're in an alliance, remember? You'd be a lot more useful bringing all of us than going back alone, won't you? Rimuru reasoned. Laplace seemed to calm slightly, understanding the logic. Useful? Rimuru needed more details to strategize effectively. So what happened exactly? After a moment, Laplace explained. TR reached out to me. She said our team's president, Lady Kigali, was calling for me, because Kondo and his team were attacking them. Lieutenant Kondo was a known threat, and teaming up with Laplace seemed prudent. Rimuru questioned Yuki's situation. What's Yuki doing then? Did he lose too? It sounds like Damrada's taken him on, Laplace replied. Rimuru was confused by the shifting alliances. Damrada, the Cerberus leader who's actually vice commander of the Imperial Guardians, right? So he turned traitor on Yuki? Laplace couldn't confirm Damrada's motivations, but indicated he was fighting Yuki. Enemies were dispersed, and Rimuru needed to assess the battlefield. Deploying Argos, the Eye of God, Rimuru projected the composite division's encampment on the wall. They saw a striking woman with blue hair, dressed in a kipao-like outfit and a military jacket, standing among a field of corpses, what had once been an army of 60,000 troops. Carrera recognized the high-gravity force field. Gravity collapse, huh? What a drag, stealing my greatest trick like that, she remarked, her expression serious. The precision of Velgrynd's spell was evident, affecting only gravity and nothing else. Rimuru considered their options, pondering whether to engage Velgrynd or target Emperor Ludora. Testarossa pointed out the blood-drained corpses, revealing a man in military attire and a familiar woman. Is that Kigali, Yuki's secretary? Laplace confirmed. She's the head of the moderate jesters. She created us. God damn it. I don't want to believe it, but it's true. Footman and Tyr told me as much through telepathy, but I guess Kondo really was controlling Lady Kigali. Controlling? You mean mind control? Rimuru asked. Yeah, and worst of all, Tyr and Footman can't defy Lady Kigali's orders at all. Our telepathy got cut off a bit ago, and I bet it's because she ordered them to stop, Laplace added. The situation was dire. Rimuru needed to understand the extent of Kigali's control. So how far does Kigali's thrall or whatever extend if she's being mind-controlled? Are you all right? Laplace, despite his frustration, reassured Rimuru. Nah, I'm fine. Lady Kigali created me, it's true, but I'm the only one who ain't obliged to follow her orders. The bigger deal right now is that most of the folks Yuki's gathered have a locking curse on them. Their top leaders are going to be the main problem in that case, but judging by how the army's looking right now, I don't see much point worrying about them.
Rimuru patted Laplace on the shoulder. But isn't it too early to give up? Kigali's not dead or anything. If that guy Kondo is controlling her, we can just defeat the source to bring her back to normal. I'm sure Yuki's still fighting too, so let's get over there and help them rise back up. Laplace, though initially surprised, seemed to appreciate the optimism. You're a funny guy, you know that? Saying the same kind of things my boss does. It's humans who persecuted and exiled us, and now it's humans who are gonna help us, huh? What a pain.
Rimuru thought he could detect a hint of a smile beneath Laplace's mask. Reflecting on his journey from human to slime, Rimuru considered his motivations. He wondered if it was worth sharing with Laplace, but ultimately decided to open up. Laplace, curious, asked, "Hey, mind if I ask you something?" "What is it?" Rimuru replied. "What do you want to do as a demon lord?" Rimuru's answer had been consistent since his reincarnation. "I'm going to make it so we can all live happily together. That's why I've created this town, this nation, and built relationships with all these other nations. Beyond that, I'd like to value diversity and get along with everyone who shares in my tastes and interests." Laplace was taken aback. "You're not thinking about taking over the world or whatever?" "Huh? Nah, too much work," Rimuru responded. "What? But if you conquer the world, you can do whatever you want with it," Laplace exclaimed, puzzled by Rimuru's lack of ambition for domination. "Yeah, but I'd get all bored, you know. The more ideas you come up with, the more possibilities that'll open up. And the more fun you'll have creating fun stuff you never thought possible, right?" Rimuru explained. Laplace, still confused, started waving his hands in panic. "That's crazy, man. What do you mean, fun stuff? I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about you taking over the world." Rimuru realized Laplace didn't quite understand his perspective. "Well, what? If I got to do whatever I wanted, does that mean it's okay for me to execute mind control on people? Or do you think it's better to be controlled like Kigali is right now?" "No, but..." Laplace stammered. Rimuru continued, "I think it's important that we preserve the rights to free speech, thought, and expression. That connects to respect for basic human rights overall. It creates diversity, and it's the driving force for all kinds of cultural development." Laplace was skeptical. "Huh? That's just gonna create more selfish bastards, ain't it? You can't get people on the same page that way. How are you supposed to steer a country like that?" He had a point, and Rimuru acknowledged the challenge. "It's fine. We can figure out how to do it together later. I'm basically a selfish bastard too, and I sure don't want this nation to go in a direction I'm not on board for." Rimuru was content being a big talker. As the saying goes, reign, do not rule. He would follow the examples of leaders like Luminous and Misha, who used different approaches to governance. With a long way to go, Rimuru wasn't in a rush to define his leadership style completely. But that's why political issues and stuff can wait. Right now, what's more important is cultural development, entertainment, you see? Without that, developing this country is pointless, Rimuru concluded. Rimuru reflected on the importance of unrestricted ideas and speech for a society that thrives on creativity and entertainment. He hoped this perspective would be recognized in future history classes, understanding that fostering interesting lives required a wealth of entertainment. Laplace was puzzled as he listened to Rimuru's explanation. He struggled to grasp Rimuru's vision. The promise Yuuki made to conquer the world and create a good place to live seemed distant from Rimuru's ideology. Laplace couldn't shake the feeling that Rimuru was mocking Yuuki's grand ambitions. However, Rimuru patiently explained that world domination might not be as enjoyable or straightforward as Laplace believed. This idea silenced Laplace temporarily, prompting him to reflect on his own beliefs. Sitting limply on the floor, Laplace turned his attention to the magical screen, which displayed the grim scene of bodies and Kigali standing before them. He revealed a significant secret, explaining how Lady Kigali, as the Curse Lord, could gather the corpses of the dead and their lingering grudges to create powerful magic-born beings through a forbidden curse called Dead Birthday. This revelation, shared in the seemingly casual setting of the dining hall, caught everyone's attention. Fortunately, only trusted allies were present: Benimaru, Soe, Diablo, Shion, Hakuro, the three demonesses, Vester, and Gabil. Diablo, ever the magic enthusiast, recognized the spell and explained its application. The body he received from Rimuru had been forged through Dead Birthday, which aimed to join thousands of corpses and harness their powers. It was a dark and inhumane type of magic, a true forbidden curse. Rimuru contemplated the dire implications of Kigali harnessing the power of the composite force. According to Laplace and Diablo, if Kigali successfully completed the spell, she could potentially create several powerful beings, similar to Clayman. Kazalim, the Curse Lord, had used forbidden arts to create magic-born beings from the corpses of the dead, a process known as Dead Birthday. This dark magic gathered the power and grudges of the deceased to form powerful entities. Footman and Tiara were early creations of this spell, receiving more power than they could handle, leading to their emotional immaturity. Clayman, created later, was a more refined and successful product of this process. If Kigali completed her spell with the 60,000 people in the composite force, she could potentially create at least 10 powerful beings at Clayman's level. This was a terrifying prospect, given the immense power and control these beings could wield. Laplace, reflecting on their past, acknowledged the harsh reality of their actions driven by survival of the fittest. Despite this, he questioned whether Rimuru still wanted to join forces, given the potential betrayal and harm involved. Despite the deep-seated resentment they felt, Benimaru, Shion, Soe, and Hakuro confronted Laplace with their emotions. They couldn't easily forgive the harm his group had caused, particularly the devastation of their homeland. However, they recognized the necessity of setting aside their grudges to unite against a common enemy. Benimaru expressed his inability to forgive the destruction of their homeland, but acknowledged Rimuru's decision to join forces with Laplace. Shion echoed this sentiment, emphasizing that true reconciliation would only come when they achieved a world where everyone could live in happiness, as Rimuru envisioned. Soe and Hakuro, too, shared their reluctance, but understood the need to work together. Laplace, for once, seemed genuinely remorseful. Bowing his head deeply, he sincerely sought their cooperation. This display of humility, so unlike his usual demeanor, indicated the seriousness of the situation. Laplace's request to join forces was met with nods of approval from Benimaru and the others, their determination evident. Rimuru confirmed their plan to rescue Yuuki with the 6 of them, and Benimaru expressed his eagerness to confront Yuuki and get a proper apology. Confident in Yuuki's ability to handle Damrada, Rimuru's main concern was Velgrynd. However, Shion raised a surprising point, suggesting that Kondo might be controlling Kigali and possibly Clayman as well. This revelation left everyone silent and contemplative. Diablo, after initial skepticism, realized the possibility of Kondo's influence over Clayman. Hakuro agreed, and Rimuru's analysis aligned with this theory. Yuuki had instructed Clayman to avoid trouble, but Clayman's erratic behavior seemed influenced by external forces, likely Kondo. Rimuru and his allies acknowledged that Kondo might have been manipulating events, leading to their past conflicts with Clayman. This new understanding made Kondo a critical threat to monitor closely. Rimuru emphasized the need for vigilance, warning his team to be wary of Kondo's potential mind control. As the meeting continued, Rimuru detailed their plan to handle the impending crisis. Gazel and Hakuro were instructed to assist King Gazel's forces, but avoid engaging Velgrynd, recognizing the immense danger she posed. Their primary role was to buy time until Yuuki could be rescued. Ultima raised a concern about Kigali's ritual, Dead Birthday, which could create powerful walking dead. Diablo reassured them that the ritual typically took at least 2 hours per creation, giving them some leeway. However, Laplace pointed out that Velgrynd's involvement provided a workaround, potentially accelerating the process. Given this new information, Rimuru estimated they had at most 2 hours. He turned to Laplace, acknowledging him as the strongest of Kigali's creations, and deciding to prioritize their main objectives over the ritual. This decision surprised Gazel, but Rimuru explained that while Laplace was strong, he was not unbeatable. The other creations could likely be managed by Gazel and his team. Rimuru advised his team to disrupt Velgrynd's concentration on the spell if possible, but not to provoke her unnecessarily. Gazel and Hakuro, understanding the plan, nodded in agreement. Additionally, Rimuru assigned Ultima and Carrera to confront Velgrynd if she turned hostile towards King Gazel's forces. Their formidable power would buy valuable time. The priority was to avoid a catastrophic loss by keeping Velgrynd's potential threat in check. With the urgency of the situation clear, Ultima and Carrera showed their eagerness to confront Velgrynd, promising to give their all. Rimuru appreciated their confidence, though he knew the gravity of the battle ahead. However, Testarossa then offered to join the fight against Velgrynd. This posed a dilemma for Rimuru. While her participation would be valuable, especially against such a formidable opponent, he preferred to keep as much firepower as possible for their assault on the imperial capital. The Emperor, recognized as a significant threat, would require all their strength to defeat. Soei then suggested he take Testaross's place in facing Velgrynd. This seemed a more balanced approach to Rimuru, allowing them to maintain strong forces for the core assault while still effectively buying time against Velgrynd. Rimuru agreed to Soei's proposal, feeling confident in his abilities alongside Benimaru, Shion, and Diablo. The primary goal of Gazel's team was to buy time and eliminate enemy forces, including Kondo if possible. The Demonesses were the backup plan if things went seriously wrong. Finalizing their strategy, Rimuru urged Gazel to ensure his team stayed safe and focused until they returned. As the tension mounted, Vester, who had been intently watching the screen, suddenly shouted with urgency. King Gazel had arrived, his Pegasus Knights soaring high above the battlefield. Rimuru quickly seized the moment, ordering a swift rendezvous with Gazel's team to prevent any damage and to communicate their strategy. Gazel, brimming with confidence, vowed to carry out this critical task with utmost brilliance. With a sense of urgency and determination, Rimuru commanded everyone to move out. Thus began a long, arduous night. After teleporting Gazel's group away, Rimuru and his team joined Laplace on their journey to the imperial capital. Rimuru took human form to be prepared for whatever awaited them. Upon arrival, they found themselves in a vast hall, adorned with intricately carved columns and expensive-looking carpet. The grandeur of the space suggested it was a royal audience chamber within an imperial castle, yet something felt amiss. Laplace began acting strangely, clearly confused about their location. Despite his usual reliability with teleportation, this time they seemed to be in the wrong place. Rimuru's unease grew as he surveyed their surroundings. A raised platform 50 yards away held a throne, and seated upon it was an important-looking individual, accompanied by a beautiful blue-haired woman, Velgrynd herself. The presence of Velgrynd, who was supposed to be on the battlefield, puzzled Rimuru and his team. Benimaru speculated about the possibility of teleportation, while Soei and Shion shared in the confusion. Diablo, analyzing the situation, revealed the unsettling truth. They were likely trapped, surrounded by powerful individuals. Soei immediately accused Laplace of betrayal, but Laplace's own bewilderment suggested otherwise. He seemed genuinely shocked that his spell had been tampered with. As they assessed their precarious situation, a familiar figure approached them. Yuuki, dressed in his imperial military uniform and smiling. Yuuki's appearance and his words of apparent betrayal enraged Shion and Soei. Yet Benimaru and Diablo remained surprisingly calm. Their composure, even under the impression of betrayal, was impressive. Rimuru found himself persuading Soei and Shion to hold back their rage and observe the unfolding situation. Meanwhile, the argument between Yuuki and Laplace intensified, with Laplace desperately pleading his innocence. His panic only made him seem more suspicious, a fact not lost on Rimuru. Feeling a pang of sympathy for Laplace, Rimuru decided to intervene. He patted Laplace on the shoulder and reassured him, suggesting that the Yuuki they saw might be under Kondo's control. This possibility made the situation even more complicated, but it helped diffuse some of the immediate tension. Laplace, realizing he was believed, brightened slightly, but the crisis remained. They were surrounded, and the danger was real. Yuuki's taunts, whether brainwashed or not, revealed his mean-spirited nature. Despite the chaos, Rimuru maintained his composure. Yuuki addressed Emperor Ludora, revealing his subservience. Velgrynd followed Ludora, her beauty a camouflage for her true power. She and Ludora were encased in a thin barrier, isolating them from external interactions. Rimuru and his team cautiously observed Velgrynd, acknowledging the powerful aura she emitted. Benimaru agreed with Rimuru, impressed by her presence. Shion, accustomed to training with Veldora, found the feeling familiar, while Diablo shared a similar sentiment. noting the impressive barrier surrounding Velgrynd and Ludora. Despite their confidence, Diablo subtly indicated that even he couldn't guarantee victory against Velgrynd, underscoring the challenge ahead. Ludora then addressed Rimuru, suggesting that a meeting between two heads of state would be interesting. Rimuru noted the striking resemblance between Ludora and Masayuki, though there were distinct differences. Ludora's hair was a shining blonde and his eyes were blue, yet they both projected the same aura. Recalling a recent conversation with Masayuki about his hair turning lighter, Rimuru was reminded of the trivial concerns people face, contrasting sharply with the serious situation at hand. Ludora, standing before Rimuru, invited him to sit, conjuring two chairs with a wave of his hand. Recognizing the importance of atmosphere, Rimuru took his seat without hesitation. Benimaru stood by his right side, Diablo on the left, with Shion and Sui taking their positions behind him. Laplace, feeling out of place, awkwardly joined the group. With everyone in place, Velgrynd's teasing voice greeted the group, questioning their manners. Ludora, however, dismissed her concerns, acknowledging Rimuru's status as a demon lord and treating him as an equal. This gesture from Ludora, the real-life emperor, reflected his apparent generosity and confidence. Velgrynd, seemingly indifferent, allowed the interaction to proceed. She stood casually to Ludora's right, while four guards with god-class gear, presumably the four knights, lined up behind him. To Ludora's left was a man in an all-black uniform, likely Damrada. Yuuki, now clearly aligned with the Empire, stood next to Damrada, solidifying his position in the hierarchy. Rimuru assessed the situation, recognizing they were at a severe numerical disadvantage. The Empire's top officials, including several dozen Imperial Guardians and 5 single digits, were present, with Velgrynd adding to their formidable presence. Rimuru's doubts about their chances in a direct confrontation were well-founded, especially with Yuuki's apparent betrayal. Rimuru maintained a bold demeanor, masking his internal unease. He remarked on the unexpected setup, implying it was a clever move by the Empire. Ludora's response, acknowledging the unexpected defeat of his armored division, suggested a strategic mind at work. Despite the dire situation, Rimuru continued the conversation, subtly probing for more information. To Rimuru's surprise, Ludora candidly revealed the strategy. As Ludora explained, the elaborate strategy had indeed been devised by Lieutenant Kondo. The plan was more intricate than Rimuru had anticipated. 1. Awaken a few individuals from the invasion forces, then stage a strategic retreat. 2. If pursued, the composite division would intercept, treating them as an enemy due to suspected betrayal. 3. Once betrayal was confirmed, the entire force would be eliminated, with the Marshal handling the task. However, the initial plan faltered, leading Kondo to make significant changes. 1. Capture Yuuki's group after allowing them to roam freely, confirming Yuuki's betrayal. 2. Eliminate Yuuki's group, uncover his schemes, and make necessary adjustments. 3. Sacrifice the 60,000-strong composite division to create magic-born entities. 4. Have the Marshal engage in a flashy battle to draw attention from Guy and others. 5. Concentrate forces to eliminate troublemakers in one decisive move. 6. Create the appearance of a thinly guarded Imperial capital to lure elite attackers and then strike them with full force. 7. Exploit the monster nation's dwindling resources, with the Marshal, the Empire's greatest force, engaging them. Meanwhile, they would capture the Storm Dragon, their most powerful asset. The revelation confirmed Rimuru's suspicions that Clayman had been under Kondo's control. The strategic depth and ruthlessness of the plan were shocking, but one detail particularly unsettled Rimuru. He realized that Velgrynd had been active in multiple locations simultaneously. This raised an alarming question: how many Velgrynds were there? Raphael's analysis provided the chilling answer. Velgrynd possessed an ultimate skill called parallel existence, allowing her to create multiple identical versions of herself. Rimuru spoke the words, though he wished they were wrong. Velgryn's smile, both beautiful and terrifying, confirmed Rimuru's worst fears. The realization that Velgrynd possessed the parallel existence skill added a daunting layer to the challenge they faced. This skill allowed her to create multiple versions of herself, each as powerful as the original, effectively making her nearly invincible. Rimuru recalled Raphael's explanation of the skill's danger. To the uninformed, it might seem similar to Soei's replications, where Soei controlled multiple copies of himself without revealing the original. However, Velgrynd's ability was far more complex and formidable. While Soei's replications shared his physical abilities but had limited magical power, Velgrynd's copies were fully empowered and connected, allowing them to share and replenish their magic. The implications were clear. Even if one of Velgrynd's copies was destroyed, another could take its place, maintaining her presence and power on the battlefield. This ability made her a formidable opponent, especially given her status as a true dragon, with an immense reservoir of magicules. As Rimuru tried to maintain composure, he met Velgrynd's gaze with a confident smile, bluffing to appear in control. Velgrynd, however, saw through his facade, remarking on his confidence and likening it to her brother, Veldora. Ludora, addressing Rimuru, implied that if Rimuru was as intelligent as he claimed, he should already know what Ludora wanted. This cryptic response suggested that there was room for negotiation, rather than immediate confrontation. Rimuru speculated that they might be trying to win him over, or possibly stalling for time to capture Veldora. Seeking clarification, Rimuru contacted Veldora through their soul corridor. Veldora, amidst chaos, confirmed that Velgrynd was pursuing him and was on the verge of entering the labyrinth. Realizing the urgency, Rimuru authorized Veldora to use his full power to deal with Velgrynd. Relieved after the conversation, Rimuru felt more confident in Veldora's rimuru to handle the situation. Understanding that Ludora's plan involved stalling for time and possibly capturing Veldora. Rimuru, trying to project confidence, confronted Ludora with his understanding of their tactics. Ludora, entertained by Rimuru's sharpness, offered him a remarkable deal: to join the Empire and be granted the title of Archduke, a position typically reserved for the Emperor's bloodline. This was an unprecedented offer from an empire known for its unyielding conquests. Despite the generous proposal, Rimuru firmly declined. He countered with his own suggestion, a non-aggression treaty. Rimuru's refusal was rooted in the understanding that trusting the Empire would be naive and potentially disastrous. However, he saw value in buying time and creating space for mutual understanding, which could eventually prevent further conflict. Ludora's response was cold and dismissive. He criticized Rimuru for failing to see the mercy in his offer, insisting that Rimuru's refusal was foolish. Despite the loss of an army of 1 million, Ludora's confidence remained unshaken. To him, the lives lost were inconsequential compared to the goal of unifying the world under his rule. Ludora believed that overwhelming military force was necessary to create a better world, a stark contrast to Rimuru's ideals of free will and mutual understanding. The gap between their philosophies was too wide to bridge. While Rimuru valued the diverse ways people could think, Ludora saw his own perspective as the ultimate form of justice, dismissing other viewpoints as chaotic and counterproductive. Realizing further debate was futile, Ludora issued an ultimatum. He demanded Rimuru abandon his friendship with Guy and join the Empire. Ludora's offer to Rimuru was clearly aimed at leveraging pressure on Guy. Accepting Ludora's terms would likely tip the balance of power, explaining why Rimuru and his allies had been kept alive thus far. Despite the escalating tension, Rimuru's resolve remained unchanged. With negotiations at an impasse, a confrontation seemed inevitable. Sensing Rimuru's thoughts, Velgrynd smiled coldly and revealed a video image in the air, showing the current state of battle. The sight was shocking. Testarossa, Ultima, and Carrera, the strongest demonesses in Rimuru's nation, had fallen before Velgrynd. Although they struggled to stand and fight, the disparity in power was evident. Velgrynd's words were a clear threat, highlighting her capability to inflict even greater harm. The battlefield was chaotic, with Gazel's forces unable to aid the demonesses. Imperial troops and airships dominated the skies, while Kondo's forces and Yuuki's former comrades, excluding Kigali, fought against the Dwarven army. The appearance of Tiare and footmen added to the turmoil, further complicating the situation. Rimuru's allies felt the weight of the crisis, but Rimuru himself remained steadfast. He understood that Ludora sought to use him as a means to control Veldora, knowing Veldora's free spirit would resist such dominance. Rimuru, facing Ludora's ultimatum, understood the gravity of his decision. Accepting Ludora's terms would mean giving up his autonomy and possibly facing significant losses in the future. Rejecting it, however, meant plunging into a seemingly unwinnable battle. Rimuru questioned the true value of Ludora's vision, challenging the idea that a world unified through force would genuinely make people happy. He pointed out that eradicating war and hunger was meaningless if it came at the cost of free will, stripping people of their potential. Ludora dismissed the need for individual potential, arguing that freedom could lead to ruin and that strong leadership was necessary to keep people on the correct path. Rimuru acknowledged that while some control was needed, people should be allowed to grow through their own will, as overprotection would stifle their development. The debate revealed a fundamental difference in their philosophies. Ludora believed in sacrificing individual freedom for the sake of everlasting peace, while Rimuru championed the importance of free will and the potential for personal growth. Ludora's dismissal of Rimuru's ideals as naive nonsense further highlighted their incompatibility. Rimuru firmly rejected Ludora's approach, believing it would create more misery rather than happiness. Ludora, unimpressed, labeled Rimuru a fool for not accepting his offer. Rimuru countered by questioning Ludora's true motivations for ruling, implying that his desire for control was more about power and prestige than genuine care for the people. Ludora dismissed Rimuru's ideals as naive, expressing frustration at his failure to persuade him. Velgrynd, observing the exchange, highlighted Ludora's tendency to collect individuals he found talented, comparing the situation to Yuuki's. As negotiations broke down, Velgrynd revealed a video showing Veldora in dragon form, wounded and battling fiercely. This sight deepened Rimuru's concern, as even the mighty storm dragon was struggling against Velgrynd's overwhelming power. Velgrynd taunted Rimuru, suggesting he take Ludora's offer to spare Veldora further torment, and questioned how Rimuru had managed to tame Veldora, to which Rimuru simply replied that they were friends. Disappointed by the lack of a more profound answer, Velgrynd announced she could no longer go easy on Veldora, and then disappeared. He knew that Ludora's goal was to stall long enough to defeat and subdue Veldora. Rimuru had gone along with the stalling tactic, hoping to buy time for his own side as well. Velgrynd's parallel existence ability, while nearly invincible, had a significant drawback: rapid energy depletion. By continuously eliminating each individual body, Rimuru believed they could weaken her overall, as the magicules divided among her copies couldn't be instantly replenished. This would limit her ability to use her most powerful moves. Rimuru initially thought Veldora had an advantage. However, the reality was starkly different. Even one of Velgrynd's parallel existences proved too challenging for Veldora to fully defeat. Through their soul corridor, Rimuru sensed Veldora's growing frustration. The screen floating in mid-air showed the Velgrynd engaged with Testarosa's group disappear. Despite the demoness's best efforts to buy time, it was all in vain. Velgrynd's power was overwhelming, far exceeding Rimuru's expectations. Ludora, seemingly pleased, offered Rimuru one more chance to reconsider after the battle. Rimuru felt a sense of despair, recognizing that Velgrynd's disappearance meant she could now fully focus on Veldora. He realized that attempting to defeat Ludora then and there might not be wise, so he decided to watch Veldora's struggle. The second screen showed a crimson dragon, Veldora, engaged in an epic battle against Velgrynd. It was a monumental clash between two true dragons, and the stakes were incredibly high. The fight was about to reach an even more intense and critical stage. The scene unfolding was nothing short of a massive kaiju battle. Two colossal dragons, Velgrynd the Flame Dragon and Veldora the Storm Dragon, clashed in an epic confrontation. Despite their different forms, both dragons were equally enormous and awe-inspiring. Velgrynd, in her refined and beautiful original form, displayed remarkable agility and adaptability for flight. The night sky was illuminated by the blazing forest of Jura, turning it a bright red. Fortunately, the city of Rimuru was safely inside the labyrinth, but the large gate connecting the labyrinth to the outside world was thoroughly destroyed, and the upper floors of the labyrinth likely sustained significant damage. The battle was at a stalemate, prompting Velgrynd to deactivate her parallel existences. Despite the devastation around them, the dragons maintained impressive control over their immense powers, engaging in a highly sophisticated duel. Veldora had grown significantly, expertly controlling his power and matching Velgrynd in speed. His secret training was evident in his performance, allowing him to keep pace with Velgrynd. From Rimuru's perspective, Veldora held a slight advantage in terms of raw power or magicule count. This increase in power since his release from the seal, along with new skills and strategies, gave Veldora an edge in the battle. Rimuru couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. Velgrynd's mastery over her magic was undeniable, and now that her focus was entirely on Veldora, the true intensity of the battle was just beginning to unfold. Ludora's calm demeanor was particularly unsettling. With Velgrynd, his strongest shield, no longer present, his confidence seemed out of place. Rimuru had always considered the ability to call upon Veldora a safety net, a powerful ally in times of crisis. Ludora, recognized as an equal by Guy and capable of easily taking control of Yuuki, was undoubtedly a formidable opponent. Rimuru reminded himself of his own ultimate abilities and his knack for granting skills, as he had with Benimaru. He assessed the surrounding Imperial Guardians, finding them less threatening than the 5 single digits and Yuuki. Damrada stood out as a significant concern, but not undefeatable. Despite feeling they had the upper hand in a fight, Rimuru's worry persisted. Ludora's lack of anxiety hinted at a deeper confidence, one that didn't align with the current circumstances. Was there an insurmountable advantage Ludora held, even without Velgrynd? The uncertainty gnawed at Rimuru, while his curiosity about Veldora's battle grew. On the screen, Velgrynd unleashed a flaming heat attack, which Veldora countered with a barrier. He retaliated with a howling wind attack, but Velgrynd dodged it. The battle between Veldora and Velgrynd was nothing short of mythical. It was the first time Rimuru had witnessed Veldora fighting in earnest, and the display exceeded all expectations. Despite Velgrynd's earlier dominance over Testarossa and her friends, Veldora proved to be her equal, thanks to his mastery of Faust, the Lord of Investigation. Faust granted Veldora the ability to manipulate probabilities and analyze his opponent's abilities instantly, allowing him to respond effectively. This highly specialized combat skill made it nearly impossible to defeat Veldora, and Rimuru never doubted his victory. One of Veldora's special moves, Storm Blast, was unleashed against Velgrynd. It was an invisible attack that intersected energy waves at a given point, making it unavoidable and undefendable. Veldora's Storm Blast struck Velgrynd squarely, showcasing his remarkable combat prowess and innovative techniques. Just as Rimuru felt relief and confidence in Veldora's performance, the battle took a sudden and unexpected turn for the worse. The sudden arrival of an airship on the battlefield marked a significant turning point. At its bow stood Lieutenant Kondo, a key figure in the Empire's strategy. Rimuru quickly realized that Kondo and his team, who'd been present earlier, had vanished, indicating the completion of the Forbidden Curse, Dead Birthday Ritual. In a matter of moments, Kondo reached the site of Veldora and Velgrynd's battle, intensifying Rimuru's sense of unease. As Rimuru watched, another figure appeared on the airship's bow, resembling the Ludora in front of him, another parallel existence. Kondo acted swiftly, shooting at Veldora with a handgun. Despite the seeming improbability of a bullet harming a true dragon, this was no ordinary projectile. It traveled at an incredible speed, well beyond the speed of sound, and embedded itself in Veldora. The bullet unleashed a powerful curse, causing Veldora immense pain and preventing his usual rapid recovery. The Ludora on screen revealed the true nature of the attack. Regalia Dominion, an absolute force that could dominate any being with free will, including true dragons. As the Ludora in front of Rimuru stood up and began to leave, he made a final offer, indicating a loss of interest in Rimuru, but suggesting that serving him would open new possibilities. The realization hit hard. The Ludora in front of Rimuru was an imposter created by Velgryn's parallel existence. Even if Rimuru defeated him, it wouldn't count for anything. Ludora had manipulated the situation from the start, leading to a crushing sense of defeat. Rimuru's defiant words, "Don't you underestimate Veldora," seemed futile as Ludora confirmed Veldora was now under his control. The intense pain Rimuru felt was a result of the soul corridor, with Veldora being compromised. This meant losing the ability to summon or restore the Storm Dragon, a devastating blow. Rimuru's shock turned to rage as he realized they had taken Veldora from him. In a fit of anger, he attempted to strike Ludora, but the effort was in vain. Ludora's impostor was being erased, having served its purpose. The realization was devastating. Ludora revealed that Rimuru and his companions had been trapped inside a dream fortress since the moment he called them there. Ludora then disappeared, along with his guards, leaving Rimuru to grapple with the intense feelings of loss and rage. Rimuru recognized that he had fallen into Ludora's trap, having underestimated his opponent. The isolated distortion in space made escape a formidable challenge, and Rimuru's confidence had led him to be careless. The realization that Ludora was always a step ahead filled Rimuru with frustration. In a moment of intense emotion, Rimuru lashed out, punching himself in an attempt to regain composure. His companions, Shion, Benimaru, Soei, and Diablo intervened, trying to calm him down. Despite their efforts, Rimuru's anger continued to surge, fueled by the sense of loss and betrayal. Rimuru understood that this was war, and it was time to channel his anger into action. He resolved to take on the Empire with all the power he had, ready to unleash the destruction he had been suppressing. The Empire had pushed him to the brink, and now Rimuru was prepared to fight back with everything he had, driven by his fury and determination to protect his people and principles.